Basically, Toto's like, hey, why do I sense Grimmy? Do you know Grimmy? And Hikone's like, oh yeah, I know Mr. Grimmy. He's like, and he says Tokinada said,
What the
what is up? Welcome back to Bleach Boys. Happy holidays. Happy 2024, because this is probably going to come out like
New Year's
Eve.
Yep.
So wish we had poppers and streamers just start throwing them across the garage. Yeah. Love that shit. We're back with the back half of Camp for Your Own Volume 2. This is going to complete the novel. This is where all the meat happens. This basically ends right at the beginning of the conflict.
It's fucking insane.
So crazy shit. The world's longest fight ends from the beginning of the half of the novel.
Know. I was like, shit.
Barely. And then we go right into another one. So it's all kinds of craziness here with Jose, Pythes as always. Welcome, everyone.
I have to ask, how did you guys enjoy this volume?
Thought it was good.
I loved it. Like, remember when I asked a question early on in Camp for Your Own World, or not Camp for Your Own World, 1,000 Year Blood War? Fucking got answered here.
There was a lot of nods to other characters in the kind of the back half, like just name dropping last names and shit like that, or just in a slight comment like, oh yeah, that's the power. Like this guy was like, oh okay, all right, I guess we're just gonna throw that out there. Sure.
I'm excited. Let's get into it.
All right, chapter 10. We are starting in the classic where they're kind of building up the setup. There's the setting here, and they're talking about Karakura Town. Unlike when the Soul Reaper is moving Karakura Town during Aizen's invasion, the wall that has appeared, so just we're all on the same page, this is a static wall and is only affecting the Soul Reapers. Humans can still enter and come, but if a Soul Reaper attempts to enter, they basically pop out the other side. It's like Karakura Town doesn't even exist right here.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, super interesting. So they give the example, if you enter on the west side of the barrier, you go straight through to the fucking east side. Nothing. You can't even enter. And this is where we pick up in the Urahara shop, Urahara Shoten, if you're using the lingo from the book. And we pick up with the conversation of Yukio and Urahara while Shuhei is just kind of hanging out. And Urahara is like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, of course I know why you're here, Yukio, and why you would be after me. He says it's clearly to recruit him to his conglomerate video game company as a man with such business acumen that he creates his own candy in-house. It only makes sense that we need him at that point.
I fucking love him.
And while Urahara is kind of just like joking and prodding with Yukio is noting how frightening Urahara is because he's kind of getting closer and closer. He's using these conversations to figure out what it is he's actually doing, and he's trying to get a reaction out of Yukio as he's doing it, which very similar to Tokinada, by the way. Very similar. And so they continue this game of kind of like mental chess, and all of a sudden people start to appear behind Hisagi and attack Hisagi wielding these batons. And Shuhei knows that although he did request a Gentei Kaijo, he hasn't heard anything back about releasing it, so he's still nerfed to like 10% or something like that.
20%.
There you go, 20%. And Shuhei wonders if these guys are humans, and he eventually deduces that if they're with Yukio, they're most likely Fullbringers. And then he dodges an attack as it barely scrapes his nose, and Shuhei notices his body beginning to lag by about that of actually 10%. Shuhei jumps to the sky to start avoiding these Fullbringers below, and then he hears the voice of a woman chime in above him. He immediately turns to see a beautiful woman in a suit, and he asks if you're Quincy, and he's like, nah, like you gotta be a Fullbringer. But then she disappears, and all of a sudden is behind him with an arm wrapped around him, and she says exacta, which is very reminiscent of the words of the Arrancar Findor that Shuhei fought. Hisagi is immediately taken aback by her knowledge and asks, what, are you a fan? And then she's like, oh, yeah, well, so what if I am, what about it? And she says, I've always wanted to meet you. And just then Hisagi is taken back to being voted the most likely to fall prey to a woman attacking his weakness.
Straight up roasted the boy.
Yeah. And because of that vote, he specifically uses that to not fall for her attack. She's like, nope, I can't do that. And he blurts out that you're not even dressed like Rengiku, so you're no match for me.
I do love that. He's like, your chest isn't as exposed as Rengiku's.
And that's when we see the people from below begin to extend their batons into the sky, forming these tentacle-like things with symbols on them as they just begin attacking Shuhei. And Shuhei's still trying to figure out what their goal is, and Aura reveals that they want to make this place, Karakura Town, a throne for the new king. Immediately, as though like puzzle pieces fitting together, he murmurs the word Hikone, and then Aura is taken aback that he knows that name. Shuhei asks if she's an underling for Tokinada, and she says, I did say I was a handmaiden earlier, but underling doesn't quite fit what my job title is. Each time Shuhei cuts the tentacles that are attacking him, he's feeling his body grow slower and slower, and he thinks it's similar to the time that he was defeated by Yumichika, or something closer to Wabisuke, which the Yumichika callback is from Soul Society Invasion.
I was about to say, I'm like, holy shit, dude, what a callback.
Yeah, that is way back. And if you remember, that fight took place totally off off screen because we didn't find out Yumichika's powers until way later when
Yeah,
they were
till-
actually in Arrancar Town.
I mean, we'll get into it later, but the author of the book, Narita, is a massive fucking Bleach nerd.
Yeah, you can tell, but some
Yeah.
of the when we get to the back half, some of the callbacks and the nods, I'm like, oh shit, okay. Urahara is down below and continuing to talk to Yukio, and he's like, "Mai, what a vulgar thing you've done. Are you sure that you and the possessed can handle this?" Or I heard him say that, and then she's like, "Wow, you truly are frightening, Urahara Kisuke," and asks if he's figured out her ability. Urahara is like, classic. Well, of course not. You aren't using a single special ability now, are you? Actually, to be more precise, I suppose I should say you can't use one. And then we go over to another spot in Arrancar Town where we see Shino and Ryunosuke are investigating the walls as well, when all of a sudden they get jumped by people in black suits with gas masks as well. Shino immediately gets hit and gets knocked to the ground, and just as the attackers begin to wind up their attack, a mysterious woman in a red tracksuit jumps down.
Who could that be?
Yep, we find out, of course, it is Hiyori, and she's just hanging out in Arrancar Town doing odd jobs for Ikumi.
When I saw that and the shirt she was wearing, I was like,
Yep.
she's taking after the boy.
Fucking awesome. And she says that considering the situation that they're in, she'll help them for cheap. Don't worry about it. And Ryunosuke is immediately like, okay, 2 for Urahara shot, please. Like, go ahead. Like, I'm down. And Hiyori picks them both up, immediately jumps away. And Hiyori thinks back to her former half-comatose, lantern-faced superior and says having to rely on him is no joke, but in this situation, it's the right thing. We go back to the Urahara shop. Ora is still trying to shake Hisagi and still trying to shake Hisagi and bring it up about him killing Tousen, but he doesn't budge on any of that stuff, with Hisagi now having his Zanpakuto at her throat. Just then, Ora begins to just straight up walk forward into the blade and just literally separates her head from her body, and Hisagi feels no pushback. Ora just simply puts her head back on the body. Hisagi's totally fucking confused, and Hisagi releases his Shikai, beginning to attack her to test her new powers, and the attacks just go right through her, just like she's
she's buggy.
Yeah, she's buggy. And Ora explains that Execution has 770,000 members and asks if Hisagi would like to know how she got so many. She says she simply showed them miracles right in front of their eyes.
Just like Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like Jesus, Jose.
I think.
Hisagi wraps her up with the chains of Kazushini and uses a binding spell and tells her that magic tricks won't work on a binding spell, but Ora begins to just look like smoke and goes right through it fucking again. All tension is lost. Hisagi calls down to Urahara and tells him, like, no, she definitely has an ability. She's up to some crazy shit up here. And then he appears behind him and stabs him with, so Urahara appears behind Hisagi, stabs him with a needle, and Urahara explains that he has just forcibly removed his Gentei Kaijo, and that he wasn't wrong. She cannot use her Fullbringer ability, but she is using soul subjugation. He explains a Fullbringer controls a ratio that dwells in material, and they twist and manipulate the material, or sometimes the law of physics themselves. On top of that, sometimes they can take something they have a special attachment to and change it to create an ability of their very own, but she doesn't have that. She is directing the water and the earth to move, and even controlling the cells in her own body and the atmosphere itself. She's controlling her blood and skeleton. And then he goes, no, she's actually manipulating her body at the brain and blood cell level to make herself look like smoke, even as though she's still living. And he says, I think those things are beyond common Fullbringer knowledge. He says, to better explain it, it's almost as if you're using just, instead of a Zanpakuto, she's using Keto and Hakuto skills on Aizen's level.
That's fucking insane. When he said that, I was just, what the fuck?
Yeah. So Ora once again is like, damn, Urahara, you are frightening. And Urahara says, so if you have so many followers, what are they doing right now? And then we get a brief scene of Yukio saying he's going to interfere directly and gives him both Shuhei and Sagi and Urahara to be like, yeah, hey, do your best, go for it. And he said that he's going to resume his mission to fulfill the role he'd been given. He did it even though it meant betraying the very thing he was supposed to protect. And that is the end of chapter 10. So, brief summary that there's a lot of back and forth in between Yukio and Urahara, kind of playing a little bit of a game and poking at each other to see who can figure out what information. The goal here, which they stated from the start, is for Urahara. They want Urahara. I think that happened in the last chapter. They want Urahara. And Hisagi the whole time was like, the fuck? Like, I'm just like caught up in this whole thing. Very good chapter. I like the introduction of Ora, and I feel like, once again, as a BBS player, I kind of knew what her abilities were already, but very good.
Now you get to understand why there are those minions in BBS that are just dudes in suits with gas masks.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
I was
Those human they attack fast as
Yeah.
hell,
They're
bastards.
fucking quick.
It's them.
I did love all the like BTS that we got with Karakura Town. They even
Yeah.
talked about the labor that went into it,
Yeah.
when, like moving people and shit. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that
okay.
was an interesting part. At the beginning of the chapter, they talk about like how long it took them to move everybody and like what a labor this went through. Which, now that you bring that up, that comes up later at the very end of this book.
Yeah, I was so like, I'm like, wow, it went full circle from where we started on this one.
Interesting.
And I love everything going into it. We need Urahara to not be here because he's such a problem.
Yeah, it goes to show where they've talked about like at the I think it was the beginning of this book where they talk about Karakura Town's no joke with the people that reside there. Ishida's dad, Ichigo's dad, and then Urahara. It's
Yeah,
like
they're like, how the fuck are we gonna deal?
all of those people in the same spot, and they need to get them removed. And they're like, this is our time. Ichigo, all of his friends ran off to go fucking save Ichigo's sisters. The dad's gone. It's just Urahara that we need to get rid of now. He's the guy. And you find out they do have a motive for wanting to use Urahara later, which is very interesting. But yeah, crazy shit so far. And I like that it's taking place at the Urahara shop. I feel like we don't see it too often, aside from the brief moments Ichigo goes there to train. Same thing with Chad.
Yeah, and then they keep it relevant too, where they talk about Tessai, Jinta, and Ururu, where they're at the moment. So I don't know. Just this chapter, it was a longer one, but overall I was okay with it. I was like, all right, I see what we're doing now. Starting to cook a bit.
Now we're getting into the stuff I read because I read that last time. And so I don't have any notes for that. I think my one note I wrote was, man, Rangi could be super pissed if she heard that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's roll on to chapter 11. There's a lot more to discuss the further it gets on into the book, especially where it ended. So chapter 11, we pick up with Grimmjow and Luffy still going at it. We're hopping back over
Let's
to the
go,
Soul
my
Society.
boy.
Grimmjow is now in his release form and attempts to pierce Luffy right through the chest like he did before.
Wait. Hot take.
Yep.
Not a huge fan of that release form,
Yeah, that release form is dog shit, honestly.
I love Grimmjow. Trust me, I love him. But the release form, I don't know. I think it's cool. But other than that, I'm like,
Listen,
oh, well.
I'm not as big as a Grimmjow dick rider as some people here, but
All day, baby.
I really hope he gets a second release, segunda etapa, just so he can get a different look for that form, please. It's horrible.
Would you say that Luffy's is better?
No.
There we go.
I think you could make an argument for his Can't Fear Your Own World form looking pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's got the spikes on it. He's covered in stitches.
Yeah. He looks much cooler in that form. So in Grimmjow's a low bar. I think he'd give it a run for the money.
There are some way worse resurrections out there, but I agree.
I just think Grimmjow looks like a 90s hair metal band guy. Which, I mean, is not a bad thing. It's just, I kind of wanted something cooler. He
looks like a backup singer for Kiss.
Totally.
Yeah, I could see something like that. Yeah.
It's like 90s.
Oh, well, I love the boy regardless.
90s is grunge. 90s is like, nah.
Oh, you're right. That's an 80s metal band.
Yep.
So Luffy, about to get stabbed through the chest, was totally expecting it. Was like, I knew you would go for the same move, and stepped into it, trapping Grimmjow with his hand in his chest. So he knew he was about to do it. And now Luffy is using all 8 of his tentacles to unleash Ceros at the trapped Grimmjow. And Grimmjow's like, yeah, not gonna allow that to happen. Then he summons those stupid ass blue claws that Ichigo just ran right through and uses them to break free. At this time, Grimmjow began to see Luffy basically repeat the same thing over and over again as he collapsed to the ground. So Luffy starts saying something and collapses. He's like, what the fuck is happening here? And Luffy explains that Mayuri has put a very special poison, and that makes your enemy relive the same. So what we saw. Yes. So the same poison that made Zombie Tosh relive his moments. Luffy says he actually used it in his battle against Zombie Rengiku. And so now it's being used on Grimmjow. Grimmjow's like falling to the ground. He's like, this is not one of Luffy's abilities. What the fuck's happening?
He takes
here?
a knee, guys. Okay, he doesn't fall to the ground. He takes a knee. He takes a knee.
Whatever you want to save his dignity, Jose.
He
takes a knee.
Here's the Grimmjow cope already.
And Luffy's like, this isn't how I wanted it to go, but hey, fuck it. Thanks for making me feel alive again, Grimmjow. It's first time in a long time. But then Grimmjow full on stands up, ready to fight again. And Luffy's like, the fuck?
Well, it's funny because Luffy walks over and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this boy.
Yeah.
And then he just stands up slow. He's like, shit.
Yep. And even Mayuri watching, he's like, huh. And he comments that Grimmjow must have some built-up immunity to poison. And this is where we actually find out, which I thought was fucking awesome, is due to Grimmjow's battle with Askin, he had actually built up a whole fuck ton of immunity to poison. But of course, Grimmjow has no awareness of that.
Yeah,
happening.
he's just like, shit, dude.
Still going through his thing. He just thinks he's the shit now. And so Loopy and Grimmjow begin to charge up 2 huge attacks. Loopy putting all 8 of his Grand Ray Ceros together to form 1 Mega Blast. And Grimmjow using his claws to condense his Ceros to become even stronger. But just then, quote, that thing appeared between both of them. And we see it is none other than Hikone, of course. And Hikone appears saying that they were sent here by Lord Tokinada to meet Mr. Grimmjow. And Grimmjow asks, is Lord Tokinada like the leader of the Soul Reapers or something? And then Shinji appears, followed quite right behind him. He's like, no, numbskull, that'd be Kiraku. But, he's up there. Lord Tokinada's up there. And Grimmjow's like, aren't you the guy who got in my way when I was fighting Kurosaki? And Shinji is like, nah, wrong guy. Like that doesn't look like me. It doesn't sound like something I would do. And Grimmjow wastes no time and puts one hand up towards Shinji, the other hand towards Loopy, and then towards Loopy and Hikone, and then fires off arrows at everybody. And when the dust settles, we see that Hikone never even moved and is just standing there holding his Zanpakuto, a Zanpakuto that is covered in black and white. Grimmjow immediately notices that Hikone's Zanpakuto is just like theirs. It even opened up a Garganta, and now it seems to have eaten the Cero. The sword begins to speak and says, how could a fellow hollow spiritual pressure amount to this even after breaking their mask? What is Baragon doing? Has he been sealed away like me?
I do love that reference because he has no idea what the fuck happened.
Well, and they talk a lot about, like, you think about you're a hollow, right? Before Aizen came in and fucked everything up, Baragon was the king for thousands of years, like a long time. So if you were gone when Aizen showed up, you would have no fucking idea. Zero idea about anything that's happening, anything that happened with Baragon. You would totally be like, where's Baragon?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here?
Hello? Where's the king?
Yeah.
There's more context for that later.
Oh, cool.
Okay, cool.
Hikone apologizes, saying that the sword just learned to speak, but he only has mean things to say. But he'll be happy if they want to fight Hikone even out of anger. It's totally cool. And then we get the release command, mark their funeral, Iko Mikodomoe. I'm like, that's fucking metal.
That's fucking badass.
And then all of a sudden, a hollow bigger than that of a Menos, bigger than Komamura's Bankai appears.
When they made that comparison, I was like, Jesus.
Yep.
Fuck, how huge is this thing?
And then Grimmjow notes that this Bankai is completely different from when they fought previously. And Candace and Minnie are watching this whole thing from afar, wondering, like, what the fuck is happening? And Minnie asks, why does that Soul Reaper kid on top of it have infusions of his spiritual pressure? Don't know who that could be. And Mayuri is watching from afar and says, they took the bait, as Mayuri reveals that actually this whole thing with the Fullbringers and the fight was all just a bait out Tokinada and radios to Nanana that it's his time to shine and to use one of his few redeeming qualities to strip their Kenpaku bare. Mayuri comments that baiting him was so easy, so either something came up that made time of the essence, or he sent Hikone knowing it was a trap. This is where we go to now a undisclosed location in the Serite, of course. And we see Tokinada in an area that is the gathering place of all direct data from the visual department, whether that be from the world of living, Serite, or even Hueco Mundo, they say. His passageway is being blocked by none other than Soifan and the Punishment Force. She says it's come to their attention that he's being targeted by assassins, so they will be taking him under their custody.
I have to stop it. Because when you said we go to Tokinada, I just heard Jose whisper, I hate that bitch. Stop laughing. I'm converting him.
Your brainwash is working on the masses. You're like Aura.
Yep.
He's like Aura.
I perform miracles, but instead of miracles, I just say it over and over and hope it catches on.
Yeah. So Tokinada obviously doesn't want to be taken into custody by Soifan and begins doing his thing to get a ruse out of Soifan. First mentioning her 2 brothers that died doing errands for the Suniyashiro family.
Had no idea that even happened.
Yes, but then that doesn't work. And then he finally brings up Yoruichi, saying how she only respects her and maybe he'll make Yoruichi his wife and then she will have to respect him as well. Just as Soifan is about to snap, we hear another voice come out from the corner, and it's Yoruichi herself. And she says, well, I too am being targeted, so I'm just going to stay under Soifan's custody as well, just to make it fair. And Tokinada thinks how weird it is that the Soul Reaper who doesn't use a Zanpakuto and the other one who is skilled in martial arts are both here on purpose. And states that Kiraku must have told you both about my Zanpakuto's ability. Yoruichi claps back and says, well, She does have a Zanpakuto technically, so you're wrong. And she's just stronger in fighting and combat. But she sues over her sulking sword every day because of it. And Soifan immediately starts visualizing this and is jealous of her sword.
Just like, oh my god, poor sword.
Yep.
I love you.
Soifan is jealous of Yoruichi's sword.
Let's all be honest. If we were, a magic sword held by one of the coolest characters in the series, and then we are never used once, I'd be pissed off every day.
Well, I feel like it's interesting to think now because you can kind of take from that a couple of things where maybe like Yoruichi Zanpakuto is not a combat focused Zanpakuto.
It might be a keto one or something.
Yeah, it might be something that's not quite up her alley, so she doesn't really want to use it, which just opens up what could her Zanpakuto be.
It could be something similar to Soifon's, where it's a big dumb attack, and she's like, I could just punch.
A nuke?
Yeah, well, she could just punch you a million times in the time it takes to set
Maybe
up.
she's got Sam's Bankai.
Yeah, she has mustard gas. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Well, speaking of big dumb things, just then an explosion happens above and a gigantic hole rips open in the ceiling when a group of people covering their faces with cloth appear. As the fight between both forces is about to begin, Tokinada's like, man, I'm so frightened. Assassins are so terrifying.
No.
He's like, I suppose I must also cross the boundaries of social status and help you guys out. And then Tokinada smiles and reaches a hand to his Zanpakuto and says, offer Kuten Kyokoku. And that's near the center of the Serte. It says the curtains rose on a tragedy that the aristocracy. Am I pronouncing that right?
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy.
Oh,
that's totally it.
Thank you.
The curtains rose on a tragedy that the aristocracy had created. Perhaps it could be said that this was an overture to the further chaos that would ensue. And that is the end of chapter 11.
That's so dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? It's just like, this will go down in history as it's like, all right, settle down.
All right, so I wrote some notes for this one.
All right.
Literally, the first word of this chapter is destruction.
Let's go, baby.
Yep. That's what we looked at last podcast.
And is this the chapter where they mention Nozomi's sword from the filler?
I don't know if
I think
this...
it's the next chapter, right?
Okay, so that happens next chapter. I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think it's next chapter.
Let's see, fuck that. Okay, and is this where they talk about? Doesn't Tokinada talk about killing his fucking wife in this chapter?
Yeah, he does.
Yes, so he brings up actually multiple times in the back half his wife.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times still. It's still fresh on the mind.
Yep, so this is, for those of you keeping count, this is fuck that bitch Tokinada number 7. He just walks around casually talking about how he killed his wife.
Yeah, he's a fucking dick.
Fuck
Later
him.
he talks like, he's like, no, listen, I'm still faithful to my wife. Like,
Yeah,
don't.
No.
I'm like, dude.
Fuck that guy, dude. Oh,
I hate him.
makes me mad.
I hate him. So we're going to get to number 8 pretty soon, so let's continue.
All right. We're going to start getting to a little bit shorter notes, but we're going to just zoom through. We have so many chapters left, so let's kick it off here.
The chapters get a little bit smaller, too, in between.
They do. I think they start being at this point. So this is kind of like the big where a lot of shit is still happening. And this is now starting to be about 30 pages of the chapter is what we're looking at, which is not horrible. Chapter 12, we start on Fullbringers, a little bit of a history and knowledge on Fullbringers. It says Fullbringers are individuals born at the intersection of human and hollow relations, and they possess unique powers due to their parents being attacked by hollows. Unaware of the significance of their powers, Fullbringers can manipulate any object they feel attached to, potentially altering aspects of reality itself, which we see like Tokinada and stuff like that. This power, however, comes with risks. Those who misuse it might self-destruct, while others try to hide from the world due to their instability, which is something that Genjo mentioned to Chad and Orihime and why they formed Execution to help others get through this ceremony. Ora Michibane, a second-generation Fullbringer, whose father was a Fullbringer and mother was a normal human. Her birth was marked by tragedy. Her mother was fatally wounded by a hollow, possibly attracted by the Fullbringer blood. Ora's father, tormented by guilt and fear of being rejected by the world, confines Ora, a classic father way to protect her from the outside world and hollows. But he raises her in isolation, teaching her only the basic needs for survival and the use of her full brain. I believe in like a water tank is what they say, like literally in like a
it's like the water heater room or something. But it's crazy because all he focused on was like physics and full brain. And I was just like, well, all right.
Imagine how lopsided you would come out as a human being. Like, all full brain stuff, physics. Like, you're just smart as fuck.
You'd be a quirky, university professor.
Yes. No social skills.
Yep.
That is the most unrealistic thing about the entire Bleach series, is that Aura is like kind of normal coming out of that.
Yeah. So it continues that as Aura grows up, her father actually is the one that learns of Kugo Genjo, a deputy Soul Reaper who claims he can absorb their hollow powers, potentially freeing them from their, quote, curse. Aura's father sees it as a chance for a normal life for Aura, though she questions the need to be normal and is like confused about why she would want to erase her powers. The story then takes a turn when, of course, Aura's father goes to meet Genjo and never fucking returns.
It's because he went to go get milk, dude.
Yeah. Or is he part of the original people that died? Like Genjo was mentioning, his first squad. And Aura is basically left locked in this room or a tank, just alone and starving. And she eventually uses her Fullbringer powers to escape confinement. Once she escapes, she tries a piece of food that she finds like out in the kitchen. And they say that this could have been her attachment. Like the first thing she sees outside of this tank that she's been living in is a piece of her father's food, which he would bring to her. So they said, had it not been for her body rejecting it, it would have been her tether to a normal Fullbringer life. Aura then faints right outside of the house and is rescued by a passerby, and then subsequently adopted by the Michibane family, ending her isolation. But she remains largely forgotten by the world. We jump forward now, and Aura is just full-on vibing, going about her times. It says that she's occasionally attacked by hollows, and that's when a mysterious man comes up to her asking about her abilities. And wouldn't you know, it's that bitch Tokinada. And he does his thing, basically trying to piss her off, like trying to goad her into doing something.
I fucking hated him at this point.
He's like, my families were the ones who ordered your parents to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And Aura obviously gets a little bit upset here, and she just asks why. And Tokinada responds that something was tethered to you that belongs to us. Tokinada says, if you want to fight, I will, but I'll have to defend myself. Aura's just like, nah, no thanks. And then Tokinada is then like reverse card, amused by her lack of reaction, and starts to reminisce about getting the opposite reaction from a sightless man back in the day. And Tokinada offers to make her his pawn, saying if she has no attachment to the world, why not make it anew? Then maybe you can find some attachment. Aura doesn't agree, but then asks what it is that is inside of her. He says it's an organ of something called the Reio, the thing which we call Saketsu. He also mentioned that though the heart and left arm ended up returning to the Quincy's.
Yep.
So that is the end of chapter 12. Just a little bit of backstory on Fullbringer with Aura and how she met Tokinada.
Just her whole shitty life.
All right, so for those keeping count, that's fuck that bitch Tokinada 8 for the entire Aura conversation.
I just love that, like, we have seen this Tokinada person just be a fucking prick since day one, just like goading people, saying the worst things possible, and he gets great enjoyment out of it. Great fucking enjoyment out of it.
He gets a hard on from
and
this,
then
dude.
he
He's
also
such a
gets
dick.
great enjoyment out of the opposite. Like, just complete non-reaction, just like, oh, why? He's like, this is so funny. This is so funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You will be my friend.
You can't win. Like, I don't know what response you give where you win.
If he was not born in Soul Society, he would be browsing internet forums, just fucking. He would
just a troll.
He would be the guy with a username like Hail Satan 666 going on to ChristianMingle.com.
Totally.
And I had to look it up. The chain Senketsu, that means that's the binding chain.
Yeah, I ended up doing the exact same thing. I was like, I don't remember what this is. This could possibly be an organ. I don't know.
Interesting.
So I don't remember the context, but I wrote down from last chapter that's not some ninja's pet frog. So apparently they just dropped the Naruto reference in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Interesting.
My last bit of thing or notes for this one was I still don't like Yukio at the end of this.
No. Yeah, I think, like, with this kind of thing, I think they are obviously setting up Yukio to be this kind of heel between Genjo and everybody. Mm-hmm. But, like, from what we've seen of Yukio, he's generally been a good guy. Like, I think even when the fight was going on, he wasn't particularly looking to fuck anybody up. I think Yukio, and he's a smart guy. Yeah. Yukio's a smart guy. He's going to have some logic to why he's doing what he's doing. And I think we'll find out. I always kind of picture Yukio as like a Uryu character, you know?
But I also don't really like Uryu. Was this the same chapter where we got the rest of the fight with Aura?
No. No. That's
the next one. Okay. Oops.
More chapters to come.
God, that chapter goes hard.
Yeah.
All right. Should we continue on? You got anything else that we need to touch on? It was pretty short.
Nah. I'm good. I didn't write any notes for that after.
All right. Chapter 13. Now, we're going back in time here. This is in between the first and second invasion. And Hisagi is training develop his Bankai as a countermeasure, which we saw briefly where they're talking about even in the anime. And Kensei's harsh training method basically involves a hollified Mashiro attacking Hisagi, trying to push him to the brink of death to awaken his Bankai. They say that this method mirrors the risky training previously undergone by Ichigo Kurosaki, aiming to rapidly enhance Hisagi's power. Hisagi continues to be a big old bitch about Tousen, and Kensei basically used that to try to provoke him. Kind of be like, well, if you believe so harshly in his trainings, like show me, like do your thing. And Hisagi, as we already know, is conflicted about his Zanpakuto Kazashini, and he fears that it might taint him due to its dark nature. Despite being able to use Shikai, Hisagi says he can't actually really communicate with Kazashine, which often manifests as a dark and menacing presence in his mind, and says he only, like, the Zanpakuto only says things like, offer me your life and give me blood.
Yeah.
Kensei then dons his hollow mask and is now also going to be attacking Hisagi, tag team style. And Kensei mentions that when training for Bankai under such intense methods to rapidly achieve it, you run the risk of the wielder being unable to control the power and it popping off. He mentions how horrible it would be for something like Mayuri's Bankai to spray poison everywhere, and he comments how he hopes it isn't like Hirako's Bankai. Wonder what that could be.
I wonder.
We go to present Karakura Town. Just for the record, Hirako is Shinji. Just in case
Yeah,
there's
because
any
they do mention, they call it by Hirako
people,
the whole time.
Names.
Hirako.
I'm so upset that they did that because we already have Hisagi, who we call Shuhei, and also there's Shunsui and Shuhei. Now that's Hisagi and Hirako. I'm so mad about it.
We go now to present Karakura Town. Hiyori arrives carrying the two Soul Reapers to the Urahara shop, and that's when we see Hisagi and Urahara in the sky fighting something that looks like an Eastern dragon, they describe it as. Hisagi is trying to keep track of where Aura went, but is unable to find her, and he's worried about the side effects of the other humans potentially seeing Aura in the sky and the explosions from their fight. Urahara comments that given Aura's abilities, someone like Hitsugai would probably be more suited for this fight, but for the time being, they'll just use Kido and hope for the best. Urahara then uses the full chant for Hado number 91, Senjuku, I'm going to try this to my best, Senjuko Tentai Hyo, I don't fucking know, to amplify its strength, which Hisagi interprets as Urahara testing something. The Kido unleashed by Urahara is powerful enough to rival a Grand Ray Sero as it obliterates the swarm of red-black dragons. Despite the show of force, Urahara remains calm and collected, noting that Urahara Michibani can subjugate the Reishi of Kido. Aura now emerges unscathed and is impressed with Urahara with her ability, to manipulate nitrogen and create barriers, even in the Reishi Scar's living world. However, Hisagi notes that Aura seems exhausted, indicating that she might not be able to maintain her Fullbringer to its full extent. Urahara and Aura begin to engage in like a classic kind of like smart person cryptic conversation with Hisagi just being like, the fuck are they talking about?
I'd just be sitting there going like,
yeah, that was exactly like Hisagi's kind of like, should I be listening to this? Like, what's going on? So Urahara is joking about the Hogyoku and its potential use by Ichigo in the 1,000-Year Blood War against Yhwach. And Aura's like, oh yeah, like did you actually? And Urahara's like, nah, I'm just fucking around. Like
I like his if I could mass produce it, sure.
Yeah, and he's like, nah, I lied about that. I didn't give a fucking Hogyoku to Ichigo. And then he starts hinting at a deeper, more complex secret. And Hisagi's just confused, just so confused what is going on here. And Urahara's like, fuck it, I'll openly discuss these matters in front of Hisagi.
You don't give a fuck.
It's like he already knows about the Tsunoshiro family, and he says that he would probably figure it out eventually anyways. Urahara acknowledges the hesitations about revealing these secrets and compares it to Aizen's ambition to forcibly change the world and what the world should actually be like. And then he suggests that Hisagi, as a journalist and Soul Reaper, should explore these questions a bit further on his own as well. Just, really dig deep into it. Before the conversation can continue, Urahara all of a sudden disappears, and it's revealed that Yukio orchestrated this whole scenario, targeting just Urahara. Hisagi, shocked and frustrated by his inability to basically do shit, now confronts Yukio and Aura. And despite his efforts, Aura vanishes with Urahara's capture, and Yukio gives them both a rating. Aura gets a double S, which is fantastic, Devil May Cry rating. Hisagi gets about a B. And then
he's like,
that's the end of chapter 13.
So I cannot explain how much I was rocking back and forth going, book three. He's talking about stuff they're going to mention in book 3.
I really like the setup, and they mentioned later a lot of the comparisons of how similar this goal is seeming to Aizen's goal. And they kind of compare and contrast the two of them, which they talk about later some more. I really like that, where they're kind of like, oh, well, this is awfully similar to Aizen's plan. It's like, but we kind of want to do this. Oh, well, I don't know if I can support that. And then Hisagi's like, the fuck are you guys talking about?
He's
like,
just
please.
sitting there just like Someone give me a hint. Like
And I think Hisagi at one point he's like, I don't even know if I really want to know what they're talking about. He's just like so worried that this is above his pay grade. Yeah.
I love the framing device of like they're talking about shit the audience doesn't get to know. How do we make that not obnoxious? We're viewing it through Shuhei's eyes, and he also doesn't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah. And I think Urahara turns to him and he's like, do you want to know this stuff? Because it could fuck up your worldview. And Hisagi's just like, just like, I don't think I have a choice.
I just picture the ... over his head.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking to somebody about something, all of a sudden they go, hey, we should not talk about this ever.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you can listen, but don't ever repeat this. This could get you killed. Also worth noting that there's like a, I mentioned Urahara doing his full chant. He does some cool ass Kido shit here with like the dragons coming down from the sky.
And he protects him and Shuhei with 3 of them or something.
It's crazy. So skimmed over it, but the Kido battle that is happening with like Aura, basically they think Aura like disappeared into one of the other dragons that is fighting them, and they're trying to figure out, and then Urahara just full on summons his own fleet of dragons to attack. It was crazy.
Huddle number 99.
So now you guys can get the context as to why in Bleach Brave Souls Kisuke has that one soul bomb where he's just shooting red dragons at people.
Yeah. I thought it was part of Benihime the whole time.
I mean, technically, Benihime is there.
Yeah, fucking cool shit from Urahara. Urahara just continues to be the fucking best. And he has Urahara, even though, he disappears, where could he have gone? He has a great fucking scene where he's mentioned later that I loved.
Oh, I do.
Loved.
I wrote notes about that. It cracked me up.
I do like that at one point I think they go, so what are the normal humans that are still in here seeing, by the way? This woman's just flying. There's like large explosions.
Well, that was when Hisagi was like, I'm genuinely concerned that the regular humans are going to see us floating, because they're just in regular, like, they're going to see Aura up here fucking around. They're going to be like, what the fuck?
There's just a human dancing around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, normally when they do that, they're like, all right, Soul Society, we need you to set up a barrier to keep people away. Soul Society can't do shit right now.
Yep.
And they couldn't even give the Gentai Kaijo, which is also a fucking cool scene where fucking Urahara's like, yeah, I just forcibly removed it. It's like, best of luck.
Yeah, because I think Shuhei's like, ow, that hurts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that there's
totally cool though.
There's not even a question. You're like, yeah, he could do that. I have
wasn't he one of the ones who developed it?
I don't remember. I'm just going to assume it to be true.
That's just me. I was just thinking that.
And then to go further back at the beginning of the chapter, when they're training Hisagi to do his Bankai, Kensei seems like he full on does not like Tousen's training. He's just like, that fucking is a downer.
He says it's a soft way of training somebody.
Because for catch everybody up, they talk about this a little bit later, but Tousen's training was like, you should have fear. Like, you should, if you don't have fear, you're an idiot. Like, you should have with every battle you're going into. You should be scared to shit. But what matters is if you can walk alongside that fear and still move forward. And Kensei's like, that's dumb as hell. Like, that is like,
I do love Kensei being like, fuck that, dude. I don't fear anything.
Yeah, and
Let's
Hisagi's like, no, like, that's what Tousen taught me. How dare you speak about that? And Kensei's like, dude, just master your Bankai already, please, for the love of God. Like,
just fucks. He's just continuing to fuck him up.
And that scene was in between the first and second invasion for the Thousand Year Blood War. So that was in preparation of the second invasion where fucking stupid ass Shuhei gets taken over by Pepe.
I mean, how well did Kensei do?
He repeatedly punched the shit out of Pepe.
True. He got his get back
as a zombie, under control of.
Yeah, true.
So I count that as my Yuri's dub.
Anything we missed that you want to touch on?
Blah blah something skeleton. Nope. All I wrote was the dragon versus dragon fight in the sky was rad as fuck.
Yeah, super fucking cool. That would be probably one of the coolest parts if they animated that. It'd be so sick.
God, it'd be so good.
All right, so fuck that. On to the next chapter, which is good too.
All right, chapter 14. I think there's 18 chapters, so we still have a bunch of chapters to go. It starts off describing the size of the hollows often play a significant role in the battles of Soul Reapers. Large hollows, like the Minos Grandes, this is going back to fucking day one.
Damn, dude.
They possess an advantage due to their sheer size, making them formidable opponents. However, Soul Reapers who have attained a high level of Zonkin Soki, a combination of 4 combat elements, can overcome these gigantic creatures. Furthermore, some Zanpakutos have abilities that are specifically suited to fighting large hollows. An example of this size and power dynamic is Gerard Valkyrie, a member of Yhwach's elite guard, whose immense size and strength make him a challenging opponent even for Soul Reapers with Bankai. As Hollows evolve from Gillian to Ajukas and finally to Vassal Lordes, their size decreases with their spiritual pressure, becoming denser and more potent. This evolution marks a shift where smaller size becomes indicative of greater power. So just setting up once again the whole size mechanic, and obviously with Hikone's Zanpakuto that he's using, it's a bit of the reverse of what we're used to, where it's like normally the smaller ones, which we see with the Espada and the people that have had their altered by Aizen, they're smaller.
Yeah,
they're human.
They compressed all of the spiritual pressure into a human body.
They're human-esque, but now Ikemikodomwe is out here just fucking free balling, just huge as hell, bigger than Menace Grande, bigger than fucking
Komamura.
Komamura's Bankai, all of them.
And he's still the strongest.
I do like how he was drawn too. I think it was in the earlier chapters where we see him and he's drawn and you just see like trees and shit. I'm like, God fucking damn, that thing is huge.
So speaking of, we go back to the Rukongai where obviously the scene is taking place. And it says that even though he has a size surpassing that of a Menace Grande, it has the dense spiritual pressure characteristics of a Vassal Lorde, and its appearance causes terror and confusion as it wields immense power and can even spawn miniature versions of itself. Shinji, witnessing this, is like, man, hope Hikone can control that. That's kind of worrisome. And Hikone is like, yeah, don't worry, man. I got it. And he's like, we could even combine if necessary.
When he said that, I was like,
yes.
What the fuck? Super Saiyan level?
And Shinji is like, what is it, a fucking mecha? Like, what are we talking about here? And Shinji thinks of this new policy that has been created after the war to avoid killing a Spada-class Arrancar unless absolutely necessary, because the delicate balance of souls is already fucked up by the Quincy's actions. So they already have to worry about maintaining this balance. And now Ikemikodomwe, a fucking
big dicky
Vasto Lorde level, he's like, can I kill that? Can I even do anything against that? Like, is that going to break the policy?
Shinji throughout this whole book has made me crack the fuck up over and
over. He's been hilarious.
Good.
I love him.
He's a great character for just like, this is weird. I should not be here. This is really weird.
I love the whole when he chases after Hikone, goes like, I don't know, man. This looks like it's gonna be some gnarly stuff.
Yeah,
you can feel the man. I should have just not done any of this.
Yeah. And so, speaking of Vassal Lordes and Espada, Hannibal and Nell both appear, and they see the ongoing battle, and like, oh, we knew fucking Grimmjow was coming down here.
Of course, this guy's here.
And Hannibal is surprised to see Lupi. It's like, oh, what the fuck? And they're trying to decide if Hikone potentially achieved Bankai or Resurrection to make his Zanpakuto so different from what they previously saw. And this is when Iko Mikodomwe speaks to both of them, assuming that they must be Baragon's mistresses. But Nell is like, dog, Baragon's long gone, my boy.
He's been dead.
Yeah, Iko Mikodomwe hears this and like lets out a wail. He's like, what the fuck? And starts spawning tornadoes all around the Rukongai, causing destruction. The scene, then we go to the Serite, where a battle ensues in a concealed quarter, which is obviously with Soifan, Tokinada, and everybody, and they're fighting against black-clad assassins. They are guarding Tokinada Sunishiro, of course, and he's wielding his Zanpakuto, which is now capable of reflecting attacks. And Soifan is wary of Tokinada's intentions and his weapon's true capabilities, bringing up Kiraku and him saying that he suspects the Sunishiro family's Zanpakuto has an ability similar to something like Muramasa, and to take control of others on Zanpakuto. Which anybody?
Yeah, that's from the filler.
Yep.
We love to see that.
We have had 2 filler name drops so far.
Yup.
Insane. So I knew this was made canon already, because it's just the sword that's made canon. None of the backstory with the Byakuya family has been made canon at all, correct?
Yeah, it's it exists, but not the context of the fillers.
There you go.
Like a Nozomi sword exists, but probably not her.
And then meanwhile, we go over to the Kutsuwa town, which is just where the 11th Company barracks is at. And we see Yumichika and Ikaku, of course, just hanging out.
I love the way it's described, though.
Yeah, where it's like it's just filled with scum and like nobody wants to be there.
It's like dive bar-esque and everything.
Everybody's walking around like on edge because they can feel Kenpachi's spiritual pressure all the time. It's just, they talk about what a horrible fucking place it is. And they show that Captain, of course, Kenpachi Zaraki, is on high alert, and he's wearing his captain's coat, which they know is like not something that he normally does.
Especially past 12 or something like that. Yes.
And they say that they think him wearing his captain's cloak is a small tribute that he pays the head captain Yamamoto for taking him in. Like, it's just like an honor thing, you know?
It won't be taken care of, but you know.
Yes. So we go back to the Rukongai now. We see that, Kenpachi's been alerted to be on alert. And we see Candace and Minnie, of course. Now, Lil Toto and Giselle are joining the fray as well.
I love that, though, when she comes in.
And Lil Toto just continues to be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And immediately is like, Mayuri, I know you can hear me. Like, come on, dog. And Mayuri starts speaking from Candace's hat.
I love how Lil Toto goes, where would I hide you? Would it be in your chest?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. So good. And they start bargaining. Like, hey, we could help you out here. We really could with Ikimokodome and Hikone. But we would really like you to free Minnie and Candace here. And he's like, well, and he's like, okay, I'll make you a deal. Give me information on Ikimokodome and Hikone, and I will promote you guys to mercenaries.
I love that. He just continues to crack me up.
Is great. I describe this as Lily just fucking with Mayuri so hard that he gets too annoyed and just decides, you can just leave. Get me data.
Yeah. He says it multiple times when they're having this negotiation. He's like, listen, I finished my investigation on you, Quincy's, years ago. I don't care. And she's like, well, we could help you. And he's like, do you not understand what I'm saying?
Well, because she's like, I don't trust that motherfucker. He's going to do something to us.
Would you trust him?
No, fucking never.
Fucking Lil Toto became the best character.
She's awesome in this novel. So good. And so Lil Toto and all of the other, Stern Raiders, they begin to make a strategy to neutralize the threat that is Ikimokodome. And they're also trying to navigate the situation of Soul Reapers, Arrancars, Fullbringers, and of course the Stern Raiders are all here as well. And Lil Toto starts to ask Hikone a question about a strange spiritual pressure that she's been sensing coming from inside of him. And this leads to Hikone being like, basically Lil Toto's like, hey, why do I sense Grimmy? Do you know Grimmy? And Hikone's like, oh yeah, I know Mr. Grimmy. He's like, and he says, Tokinada said Mr. Grimmy is just one of the ingredients used to create me.
I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, so my answer, I finally got my answer.
Yep. And that's the end of chapter 14.
Yep. I remember it left off on that, and I was like, all right then. So Grimmy's brain is somehow tossed in there.
That infamously is, I think, one of our best performing shorts on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I was losing my mind. I was like, what happens to the fucking brain?
Because Sam asked, so what happened? Because Grimmy's a brain, what happened? I'm like, well, maybe that bitch has his brain. He goes, no way.
Yeah. Because it's, and it's interesting, a little bit of a spoiler for later. I think they talk about it literally next chapter. It's not like Grimmy is alive inside of him. It's just quite literally like they use his brain as this like pass through
to
like
a source
control
material.
all of this stuff. So it's not like Grimmy is alive. It's not like, as far as I know, it's not like he has any of Grimmy's powers. It is just a brain that is already programmed to take in like Stern Ritter and all this energy into it. So Tokinada's like, that's fucking perfect. That's like 10 out of 10. Perfect. I could totally use that as a circuit board, basically.
Yep.
I would love to imagine like a meteor is coming down and people are freaking out and Tokinada's there with his binoculars like, I need that.
Wait, the child turned into a brain? I want it.
I need it.
It's like, this is perfect opportunity.
So he just waited till Kenpachi got electrocuted and everything, and then he just snuck up by, took it, and ran away.
Okay, so I need everybody to picture Ichigo is coming down. He is fighting the Bammies, and all the time, like Wile E. Coyote, Tokinada is sneaking on tiptoes. He's grabbing the brain and piecing the fuck out.
So good. This chapter had a lot of really good conversations between like Hannibal, Nell, Ikimokodome, Mayuri, the Stern Raiders, all really fucking good. Really, really good.
Like I said, I love the interactions between the Arrancars, especially like Grimmjow just constantly talking back, and Nell being like, oh my fucking god, it's this guy again.
Yeah.
She's his handler.
She no, that's too nice. She's his babysitter.
Yeah, that's just the babysitter. I mean, she could be my babysitter.
Well, because you remember when they were originally going here, it was Hannibal's basically going to drop off Nell to go take care of Grimmjow, and she's going to go to Shunsui. But then she shows up and she's like, what the fuck?
She's like, why are you always in something?
Imagine they open the Garganta, and they're, because the Garganta normally typically opens at the sky, right? That's the time we've seen it always. And you just have Ikimokodome eye level with you. It's like, okay.
You're like, what the fuck did I just walk into?
It's like, is this the Soul Society? Did I go to the wrong place? Like, my bad.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, let me reopen that Garganta real
quick. But they fucking followed him right away, and they're just opened right to his spiritual pressure. They're like, shit.
Yep.
Imagine being Holly-Bell, right? You don't want to be the one that rules over Wakamundo. You are forced to. the blood war happens, you're taken captive. After that, you're fighting this like hidden war with the Quincy's this whole time. Some weird kid shows up. You're like, I got it now. Grimmjow's gone. The first thing that happens when you leave in the Gargantes, what the fuck is that?
And then you also get judged by Candace.
Also,
Look at their clothes. It's so skin tight.
that was, dude, that cracked me up too. So I don't want to go there, but I have to ask. When they asked if Ikomiki Domoe asked, so are they you Baragon's concubines? I was like, did Baragon have a penis? Because he was a skeleton. What's the point?
True. Yeah, until he I mean, you could have pleasure for pleasure, I guess.
Well, here's the question that I lead to, not related to this novel. Baragon, as we know him, okay? So obviously Xia Leparo ended up in hell. Would Baragon have gone to hell?
Honestly, I don't. Book 3.
I don't know.
I can't give you a hypothesis until we get to some stuff they talk about later.
Okay.
Damn.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
Well, I mean, Kubo does mention that hollows can reproduce sexually.
They can.
Well, yeah, and just from what we've seen of Baragon, I don't think from what we've seen he is a bad guy. He was just on the wrong side.
He was just under Aizen.
Unless there's something that happens later, I did not see him ever like torturing his underlings or anything like that. You know, I didn't see him outwardly doing something evil, but who knows?
True.
Remember, you only go to hell for sins committed as a human. Which is why.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering, because then also like it could be the personality maintaining, like the strongest one could be that personality that you had from when you were alive, like Xia Leparo or something like that.
So, and then going based off the whole hell thing, Ulquiorra would never be in hell because he was created he was born a hollow.
Yep. And want this stuff. We'll get to it in book 3.
God damn it!
All right. Anything else to touch on for chapter 14?
No, outside of the funny penis and that apparently Muramasa is canon.
Yep.
Yeah. I do love how well everything is described.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
So
Yep.
in my head, I'm seeing this done in the anime form.
Yep.
I will say I did get a little tired of when we would start a new chapter and we would go back to like a scene that's happened. They would give you a recap. I was like, dude, I'm reading the book actively. It's not like it's a fucking anime episode. Like I'm reading it.
They're designed so you read one chapter per sitting.
Yeah, I think they really are, because sometimes they'll go like back to the fight that's happening because of this thing, and then what's happening in the quarters where if you remember the discussion happened. It's like, I got it. Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
If you'll allow me to quote the Super Best Friends episode of South Park. Meanwhile, at the exact same location.
Yeah. Okay. Chapter 15. We kick it off in the aristocrat quarters, which we have, I think, one of the best conversations. I just loved so much. Sanosuke.
Can I say my note on this before?
Go for it.
Sanosuke will shit talk fucking anybody.
I know. I dislike him.
Mm-hmm. I like that Sanosuke's route of shit talking, and almost like he is almost the reverse of Tokinada, where Tokinada will tell you no, and they've mentioned you can see it in his face that he's lying. He's
just
enjoying
smirking.
this. Sanosuke will just straight up, like, he'll be like, hey, Sanosuke, what do you know about this? Oh yeah, I know about that. He did this. Like, full on, what are you gonna do about it? Like, I totally know that. What are you gonna do?
He
just like doesn't give a shit.
He's such a motherfucker. I like him a lot.
Yeah. So Sanosuke and Shunsui are having a conversation, and I quoted it as a Tokinada-like conversation, except Sanosuke is just telling Kiraku whatever the fuck he wants to know. And Sanosuke is obviously, he managed an aristocrat pharmaceutical clinic, so he has a little bit of power within the aristocrat district, because even Kiraku is like, I know there's multiple, people here that have had their lives greatly extended by you, and they would be quite the uproar if I did anything to you. So they're discussing even things like, Sanosuke brings up Retsu Unohana's death.
Yep.
And Kiraku's like, surely you don't got a grudge against me. And he's like, no, I don't have a grudge against you. Even if I did, Unohana would have fucking done it anyway, so I'm not going to hold a grudge against you. And it shifts to the discussion of Hikone. And Shunsui's like, hey, what do you know about this child Hikone that's been seen running around here? And Sanosuke's like, oh, yeah, I healed him. I know about Hikone. He's like, Hikone is a blend of Soul Reaper, human, Quincy, all souls of these people, and fragments of the Reo, Soul King. And he says when he first met Hikone, it was damaged so badly upon arrival that Sanosuke himself was barely able to keep it alive. They were able to keep it alive by mixing all the different blends, and it was about to not work at all. They couldn't get it to fucking go until the final piece they needed was the brain of Grimmy. And now we go back in time. We're going to cut away from this.
I just picture him being, what is it, the Powerpuff Girls' dad, just mixing in all of these things.
Basically what it was. And then until he broke the case that hold Grimmy's brain and just started pouring in. It's like,
let's go.
Now we have Hikone.
Element X or whatever.
And they talk about that when Hikone first came, he was like missing anything above the neck.
Yeah,
Like he full on didn't have anything.
Mannequin?
He could barely walk. It was all fucked up. And Tokinada was like, hey, fix this. And Sanosuke was like, what?
He's like, how?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't care, fix it.
So preemptively, I will just say this conversation we're about to get to is fuck that bitch Tokinada number 9.
So we go to the Vonderreich base with Grimmy being released from his cell.
Yeah.
And it says the only person who wanted to interact with him was Lil Toto.
I like this part.
And Grimmy is like doing his thing like, hey, why are you coming over? And she's like, make me some donuts. And she's like, why would I ever make you donuts? And then he makes her donuts, of course. And she immediately was like, they're too sweet. And Grimmy's like, okay, the fuck? How am I
sorry?
He's like, how am I supposed to know what kind of donuts you would like? And she's like, well, maybe you could learn that later and figure that out. And Grimmy is like, hey, I made you donuts. What are you going to give me? Like, come on. And she was like, what could you possibly want? You can make anything you want. He's like, it's just formal. It's
the kind thing to do,
It's like, you have to do something for me. And so Lil Toto says if there's ever someone strong enough that he can't defeat, she'll be sure to attack them while they're down and then run away if they're too strong.
I do love his comeback, though.
Dude, okay, before we even get there, how cute that is what happens in 1,000 Year Blood War, dog. And like before, it looks like they're just jumping Kenpachi, and now it's like, oh, it was a promise that she made with Grimmy, and like she held true on that promise. So good.
This is the conversation that took Lil Toto from literally who the fuck is this character to this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, and she even mentions to him, like, she's like, hey, what are you going to do after the war? And he's like, oh, I don't fucking know. Like, I kind of want to learn how to do cooking. And she was like, hey,
I thought that was cool.
When you cook stuff that you're not going to imagine what it tastes like, that you can't guess the taste, because then you can figure it out and you'll know. Like, you'll know, because then if you imagine it, it's going to fuck up the taste.
Exactly.
Because he even mentions when she said it was too sweet that, oh, should I just imagine that you like sweet things? Like, because he could just change it. He can do whatever he wants. So I really like this weird little relationship where, like, she's an asshole, he's an asshole, but she's like, hey,
assholes together.
Like, go cook something like something you have no idea what it's gonna taste like. So now your imagination can affect it.
Hell
and Grammy's like, that sounds like a good idea. So it sounds good.
Take him to America. He'll experience everything.
True.
Like, think of the balls on Lil Toto. Grimmy is a man who summoned a meteor that had even Jugram freaking his fucking shit, and she just goes, "Feed me." Then she calls him a monster. She goes, hey,
well, he didn't like that, so she calls him scum afterwards.
She doesn't go, sorry. She goes, okay, I'll just call you scum. By the way, these are too sweet.
Yeah, love the whole discussion between Lil Toto and Grimmy here. It's crazy how they're kind of going back, and it's like the author is adding character to a lot of the Stern Readers we didn't get in the actual manga 1,000 Year Blood War, and it's like, man, I kind of wish Grammy got to cook.
That's why I was like, please add this to the anime, and they didn't.
So now we cut back to the Sarate where we see Tokinada. He is basically looking over the aftermath of this struggle that has happened, and he's at the entrance to the visual department storage, and it's now just a total pile of rubble. But we see Yoruichi. Yoruichi is now flexing her formidable spiritual pressure, and she confronts Tokinada while she's standing on top of the wreckage, and she basically displays these items that she found. She's like, hey, what is this? And it is a human fetus fused with a piece of hollow, and she's questioning that this is awfully off the beat path for the visual department. Like, why is this here? And Tokinada, totally unflustered, just starts having a conversation with Yoruichi, and he's like, I suppose this means that is a no to my proposal with the Soul King and the Shiba family. And Yoruichi's like, well, listen, I don't have a stake in what's going on here, but I was not down for Aizen doing it, so I don't know why you think I would be okay for someone even scummier than him. And Tokinada's like, oh, I'm honored that you compare me to an evil like Aizen. And she's like, no, I didn't call you evil. I said scummy. And it's like, okay. And she also mentions that, like, she's not so sure that Kukaku would even be down to come for the Shiba family status. And she says that she always pictured herself as, like, a separate entity from the royal family. Like, she doesn't vibe with any of that shit. Soifan, which is also similar to fucking Asagi, is witnessing their whole exchange. And she is confused and troubled. She's like, I should not be
Just sitting
hearing
there
this.
listening to it.
She even like goes so far as I'm going to take my mind off of it. I can't hear any of this stuff. It's going to taint me. And she can't believe the stuff that Yoruichi's saying about the Shioen family and the Kuchiki family. Yoruichi and Tokinada just continue totally debating right in front of Soifan their family legacies and the royalty that's going to happen, the moral rot that is within the noble clans. And Tokinada says it's about time that he uses his trump card. And Yoruichi quickly notices this happening. He starts like pumping this pendant that he has and tries to stop him, but he vanished into smoke. And Yoruichi says that it is possible that he is using a soul ticket, similar to the one that Kiraku gave to all Ichigo's friends and stuff.
So he just straight up disappeared to a different realm.
Yep. So we go back to the Rakangai now, and the battle involving Hikone and Ikimoku Domoe is still going on. And Hikone gets an order from Tokinada, of course, to withdraw from the fight, but not before he bids farewell to Mr. Genjo. He says that I actually heard that Genjo is a potential Soul King candidate as well, and he will not lose to him. Hikone then opens up a Garganta, and everyone attempts to jump in and stop him, basically shooting Ceros at him. Hikone then releases a blue-white glitter in front of him, and it is a gigantic Cero that is like uncompressed and shoots towards everybody. Just then, the Cero emanating from Hikone's hand, they say it's not like skillful like a Grand Ray Cero, but it's literally just raw strength that is generated by releasing dense spiritual pressure. And the blast engulfs and neutralizes all of the attacks that have been launched at Hikone thus far. So this attack gets launched at everybody, and it's none other but Nell and Lil Toto that jump in front of everybody. Lil Toto consuming the Cero, and then, of course, Nell using Cero Double, and, Lil Toto used the Clatin. To turn the powerful attack into energy, and then Nell shoots the Cero back, retaliating with her own Cero, but by the time the light fades, Hikone has already disappeared through the Garganta, a portal-like entity, and the two of them bond over how they have similar powers.
I forgot that she could swallow Ceros.
I did as well.
I was just like, wow, I totally forgot about this.
Totally forgot about that power. I was like, because in my mind, that consuming power, I'm like, that's like a baby Nell sort of thing.
Yeah, right?
It's like, whatever.
I also remember, I'm like, well, there's probably a part of the internet that probably loves the fact that Nell's spit has a little bit of a healing factor.
Okay, and then we're going with this conversation, is it?
So I was talking about this book with some of the guys at work, and they're like, if I hurt myself, I'd let her spit on me. That's where I was going with that.
All right.
So I was like, I forgot all of this stuff could happen.
I love that Nell and Lil Toto, like, afterwards, like, you got a similar ability.
We're
like,
vibing.
Interesting.
It's like the Spider-Man thing.
Yep.
No, it is. That's just Spider-Man.
And I think Lil Toto is like, man, I kind of wish I could have, or no. Lil Toto comments on like, oh, you shoot yours back, and Nell's like, yeah, it's kind of a waste, to shoot it out like that. And Lil Toto's like, yeah,
I should have kept it.
Lil Toto's like, I don't believe in shooting that stuff out. It's a waste. So I was like, all right.
What a wholesome interaction there.
Oh, so when you skip the part when Lil Toto talks to Hikone about if got Grimmy in there. When Hikone says yes, she just starts blasting him.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and they mentioned that even Hikone, when that was happening, so Hikone is like, did I make her mad? And Shinji is like,
he was
you
apologizing.
might have stepped on a landmine, I think. And like Shinji's still just hanging out,
His
narrating.
commentary in the back is hilarious.
And Hakone's like, oh, sorry, like my like I don't know what I did. And
he's like, I'm sorry, please
Lil
don't be mad
Toto's
at me.
pissed, just shooting at Hikone from on top.
So even though I'm on Lil Toto's side 100% because she's cool, Hikone is so likable.
Yeah, so likable.
But I like that whole interaction with the Stern Ritters because Candace is just blasting him, and then Meneas is just like picking up fucking Ikomiko Domo and just like slightly tossing him or something.
You're trying to put him off balance.
Yeah,
He's
and I was just like, what the fuck?
Like Bambietta, zombie Bambi is just shooting.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Shinji having flashbacks.
Yeah.
She did have a flashback.
Shinji, I think, sees that, and Shinji's like, I could go in there right now, but I'm a bit concerned with Bambietta, like, just shooting all the shit around.
And the whole time, Hakone's like, what'd I do? I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
So we go now to Grimmjow and Loopy, and they are still getting ready to fucking fight each other after this whole thing happened.
The death.
And Shinji is just like, I could intervene, but I feel like I might complicate matters a little bit further if I go in there. And he does mention that, Genjo is still around here, and he's kind of wondering what is Genjo's deal? Like, why is he here? And that's when we see, out of nowhere, Nanao appears and is like, what up, everybody? And she
wasn't expecting that, to be honest.
And so they mentioned that despite Nanao being less suited for combat, she still like bravely jumped in the middle of everybody. And there's Quincy's, Arrancars, and now Fullbringers that are all hanging out together. And they were all originally enemies of the 13 Court Guard squads. And she declares that she's going to take everybody into custody of the first company. And this is something that obviously surprises and they say pacifies the situation because they're like, what? And that's when Grimmjow, of course, Loopy, they're both not fucking down for it, but Hannibal steps in and you think she tells Grimmjow to stop and gives Loopy a look, and they're like, okay.
Like, hey, boss lady came in, man.
Yep. And then all of a sudden they're all down. Now, we do see a last scene of the chapter with Mayuri talking to Nanana. And they're, of course, another part of the Rukongai, and they're discussing the analysis of the growing entity, which is obviously Ikimikodomoe. And Nana said that he could actually finish analyzing it, and he said that he could paralyze the creature for just a moment, but it would be difficult because even during the fight, it was continuing to grow. Mayuri states that in the short time remaining, this is going to be the time where they determine the power dynamic between the court guards and the aristocracy. And that is the final part of the chapter. But it is worth noting, Mayuri shits on Nanana that whole time.
Straight up, the whole time he's just talking shit.
Time. Like, Nanana's proud. Like, yeah, I was able to decipher it. It's great. Check this out. And Mayuri's like, why are you bragging about doing your only use? it's so tough. And Nanana's like, fuck you.
He's like that skill in D&D. What is it?
Vicious
I forget what
Mockery.
it's called.
Vicious Mockery.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember the name of it, but I was fucking dying.
Mayuri's a class character, dude. Just everything. Anything in chapter 15? I know we mentioned some of the stuff as we were going about, but anything else you guys want to touch about on that?
Nah.
Well, I remember Ikumiko Domoe released a bunch of little like flying things, and that's what caused everyone to kind of team up and
that
fight
is
him.
worth noting because that skill comes up later. So during that fight when the original Stern Raiders hop in is because Ikimiko Domoe starts kind of vomiting out smaller versions of himself.
Curls up.
Oh, curls up into a ball.
He curls up into
so
Sonic.
He creates other forms of himself, even attributing it to something like our boy Rude Bone.
Yeah. Very similar because Lil Tote, when she eats them, she's like, oh, they're kind of hollow. It's gross.
Yeah.
Is this the chapter where they mentioned the Ryu Doji clan, or is that next chapter?
Next chapter.
Okay, so fuck, we'll just get it there. Ryu Doji clan is the fucking bastards from the first movie.
Yep. Yeah. So excited. We don't have anything to go. We could zoom right through. We'll get to that Ryu Doji clan part.
All right, let's go.
All right. Chapter 16. And this is, of course, in a peculiar location in the Kyogoku, which is a place within the Garganta, which is a void surrounding the worlds of living in the Soul Society. We've seen this a bajillion times. And since this area that they're in is unlike the vibrant blue skies of other realms, appears dimmer and is on inorganic wasteland with rocky cliffs. Within it are two structures, a luxurious Eastern-style palace and a massive floating royal palace that they say is reminiscent of the Squad Zero area, where like it's almost, I think they say it's a ripoff later. They're like, damn, they're fucking just ripping this shit right out. And it says, despite its intimidating presence, this floating palace, it seems uninhabited and lifeless. Aura's there, and thanks Tokinada, or I guess Tokinada is more thanks Aura for his efforts. And Tokinada says that it's wearing his Japanese style clothing, and it seems like he's a perfect fit for the palace. And he reflects on their success in Ichigo Kurisaki's absence, attributing part of it to Hikone, which Hikone is like, I feel so horrible. I wasn't there to protect you from the assassins. Like, I feel so bad. And Tokinada's like, nah.
Such a genuine kid.
He's like, you did a good job. And then Aura finds the Kyogoku curious and discusses its nature with Tokinada, who he theorizes that it is formed from lost souls unable to reincarnate, possibly a product of humans escaping the cycle of life and death. And this is where Tokinada mentions a certain Ryodoji family, which is Ganju, for everybody at home. The first Memories of Nobody?
Ganryu.
Ganryu. I was like, wait, Ganju's a Shiba.
Ganryu. And is it Memories of Nobody? Is that the correct movie title?
It's almost,
yeah, it's with Senna.
It's almost like they are in some place, some kind of Valley of Screams, maybe.
No.
And Tokinada goes, there was a notable clan, the Ryodoji family, that actually got banished to Kyogoku. And he seems to kind of like, almost Tokinada was out of the loop. He's like, man, I wonder, surely they're going to try and seek their revenge one day. Or maybe it happened when I wasn't looking, which, as we know, it happened when he wasn't looking already. And Aura is asking Tokinada about the possibility of Tokinada wanting to meet with Urahara because they have Urahara captured. And Tokinada's like, no, fuck that shit. He says Urahara is still way too dangerous, and I think he says it would be almost as if the general walked up to the front lines and was just like, let me just fucking go for it. He said, nope, too dangerous. I don't even want to be in the same room with Urahara, and I will only go there maybe after we kill all of his other people. So he's like defeated.
That's right. Respect, dude. Fuck it, you can't take on Batman.
Yeah. So Tokinada, which I love, this was the scene I was referring to earlier, just fucking love. Aura's like, hey, did you want to meet Urahara? And he's like, no, the fuck I do not.
Thank you.
Like, I'm not interested in that. And I like that we've seen Tokinada as such a sharp tongue this whole series, like so smart, so like ahead of the curve. And even he is like, I do not even want to have a conversation with Urahara. Like, no, thank you.
That man is just too deadly.
I'd like to mention that in this scene, he is in his base of power, surrounded by his two powerful assistants, and Kisuke is captured and is no. I don't want to fuck with that.
Yeah. It's like, I know way too much and I'm way too smart to do that. Thank you. It's like, I think he says almost like any meeting with Urahara is a chance for him. Yeah. Like, it's just not even worth to go in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says.
He's captured, but he's not helpless.
So Tokinada then is informed that Hisagi was also there. And he's like, oh, that's Kaname's disciple. And he expresses a deep desire to want to torment him. Despite knowing that the Soul Society will likely send individuals after them, Tokinada's pleased. And he's like, oh, this is great. Like, they're going to come over.
I'm so excited. 2 for 1.
Yeah. He's like, they're going to come over here. It's going to be removed from the view of everybody. And he even says that he could chalk it up as mutiny. And he's like, this is going to be fucking awesome. Like 10 out of 10. And he says that he is eagerly anticipating the arrival of his old enemy, Shunsui Kiraku. And he's totally ready to eliminate everybody else who tries to disrupt his game plan.
God damn Tokinada. I hate him so much.
So now we have a brief scene where we're at the 11th Company barracks again. Kenpachi officially receives the message from the first company and orders Ikaku and Yumichika to get ready to leave. We go back to the Urahara shop in Karakura Town where Ryunosuke and Shino are discussing the news of basically Urahara fucking getting kidnapped. And Hiyori is there and basically like, they're amping up Urahara. Like, what are we going to do? Like, he's like a hero. What are we going to... And Hiyori's like, who the fuck wrote that stupid-ass article as a fucking liar, as a propaganda piece? And Hisagi's just like, that was me.
I love the part where he's just like, oh, yeah.
Like, right
up.
here.
Yeah, here, I did that.
So Hisagi just kind of being a fucking sad boy about not being able to help and how useless and how he's like this in every situation, even with Tousen. And it's Tessai is the one that speaks up and basically reassures him of the value that Hisagi brings to the table because of all of his experience.
Yeah.
And he mentions that even someone like Ichigo, who despite his obvious meteoric rise in strength, has had multiple moments of fear and has had to overcome all those issues himself or with the help of others. Hisagi is like, great point. Great fucking point. And he says that Tessai's words basically revitalize him and he resolves to continue his duties as a Soul Reaper. So some of the stuff that Tessai's talking about there is he is eventually stated Tessai is just repeating stuff that he thinks Urahara would have said. Yeah. And he thinks back to even the first time when Urahara was talked to by Ichigo, and Ichigo wanted to go run after Rukia. And Urahara's like, don't go kill yourself before you learn how to control your powers.
Learn how to fucking fight, dude.
And Tessai even says that Urahara hates when weak people overexert themselves. And he's like, don't fucking do that. Like, you're good. And Tessai's like, you have that fear in you, and because you have the fear, you can walk with it. He gives him a whole speech. And Isagi's finally like, oh, that's a great point. It's like
that's a good speech, man. I might listen.
And then I think it's Genta is like, imagine being inspired by Tessai. It's just like,
I like Tessai though. He's cool as fuck.
Yeah. So now they decide to head above ground to where the Urahara shop is, and the group starts to search for clues to locate Ora and Yukio, of course. And that's when they discover a strange sphere that has been left on top of the Urahara shop, which splatters a message in red fluid, and it directs them to search for Ora's believers and mentions a pillar that they should be looking for. Hiyori comes out and sees about this red fluid on the ground. She comments how it looks like someone left a message with their own blood. And that's when you see it left a secondary message where it says, if you think this is reminiscent of someone writing in their own blood, you have no sense of humor. None. So like Hiyori starts stomping on the ground again, like, fuck you. And then I think it was Ryunosuke was like, well, what do we do? I thought it was funny. Yeah. He's like, do I have no sense of humor? Like,
he's such a funny character.
So funny. So then we go to the Kukaku Shiba residence, my one true love. Don't play that to my girlfriend. They're in the Rukange. An unusual intense gathering is happening, which is what it's described as. And of course, it's because there's Fullbringers, there's Soul Reapers, there is Arrancars, there are Quincy's, the Kurosuchi Corpse unit, of course, is all there. Mayuri and Nanana are also there, where they are apparently just hanging out in the corner, observing everybody. And Nanana decides to take this opportunity to confront Lil Toto about not helping him when he got shot in the back by Bazz
I totally forgot about that.
And Lil Toto's like, dog, Bazz seems to do that shit all the time. You should have dodged. He's just like so pissed. And Loopy, of course, also uses this opportunity to try to provoke Grimmjow into fighting again. But Mayuri actually ends up zapping him with the electricity. And doing this zaps all the other corpse unit of the same electricity, and it's Charlotte and Minnie, where they're like, they don't know if they either were not feeling it as much or if they were too dumb, whereas like they're not reacting as much as everybody else.
Well, I mean, we know Charlotte likes it.
Yeah, and then Candace is like, please, like, oh, this shock is fucking nothing on me. But then she begins to hallucinate centipedes crawling all over her and begins to scream as well.
She has that different type of poison in her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's not until Kukaku, who is sensing all the escalating tension and is like, yo, if you guys are going to actually fight, fucking take it outside, please. Like,
I love that. It's just like, yo, you guys going to beef? Get the fuck out of my house.
He's like, you guys can squabble, but if you're going to fight, there's the stairs. Like, fucking go outside. And this is when Hannibal and Nell, they're like, she's strong. She's like, really
they
strong.
like her.
Yeah. And Mayuri, and of course, his typical fashion, he makes some sort of shitty, sarcastic comment about like, man, like they think he said that they're using like fireflies to light. He's like, you guys have really dumbed it down since your aristocrat days. And that's when Kukaku gets upset, like, hey, can we kick that guy out first? and Yoruichi's like, nah, like, come on, we gotta wait. Like, wait a second. And this is when Yoruichi updates Kukaku on Soifon's mission and that she's investigating abnormalities within the Serite. And as they are talking, they sense a powerful spiritual pressure approach that upsets multiple people that are hanging out with Kukaku, Grimmjow, Girigo, all of the Bambi squad. And they faintly begin to remember this pressure, and then it's revealed it's Kenpachi Zaraki entering the room, so everybody's fucking upset. And of course, followed it behind him is Ikaku, Yumichika, Kensei, and then lastly, Shunsui. And Shunsui enters and suggests that it is time to start their plan to supplant the 4 great noble clans. And that's the end of chapter 16.
It's a hard line.
That was actually a really quick one, but I like that chapter.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of character interaction, some stuff that I kind of lightly touched on and skipped over, but there's a lot of characters interacting that you would not have normally seen. There's more interaction that comes up later that's very interesting with the Fullbringers, but I love that they just force all, because they even say at the start, what I touched on is like, it's a tense situation because there's Fullbringers, Arrancars, Quincy's, Corpse Unit, Mayuri.
All in one room.
Like, there's all these people who would never normally be in a room together.
It reminds me of like, Avengers.
Yeah.
Assembling your team, and then you have like random squads hanging out.
Yep.
This is just that scene from the Ray Guy arc where all the captains are in Ichigo's room, but they just hit random.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Ganju at the beginning, he's like, why the fuck are they here? And Kukaku's like, dog, just shut up. Like, just
like,
you
know, this is the place.
Like,
come on, everyone comes here.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes up again in other books, but if you need shit done off the grid, just go to Kukaku's house.
Hey, it's the safe house.
Yeah. Which, to be noted, to Mayuri's point, when he's making fun of her for how simple the lighting is and stuff in the house, that's probably why it's off the grid. It's like there's nothing there. Like they're using fucking bugs for lighting.
I mean, she's always moving around.
Yeah,
that makes more
sense. Oh
sense.
yeah, forget they
just can up the bugs and just move.
So her house is never hidden. She always puts up giant goddamn statues everywhere.
Yeah,
going to Kukaku's house.
You gotta let everybody know when they enter. There's gotta be a grand entrance. It's just how it is.
I always forget it's like the arms holding the banner, right?
Yeah.
So should we count how many characters are in this room right now?
We got
let's
Kukaku. Let's start.
Let's go Soul Reapers first.
Yeah, we can do this easy. Kukaku, Ganju. Those are the two
That's
that are
two.
always there.
Yep.
Then we have I'm gonna go Espada's next because that's easy.
Because there's 3 of them.
Hannibal, Nell, Grimmjow. I might even gonna include Loopy. Loopy's in there. Then let's go. We're gonna go the rest of the squad. Charlotte. Dordoni.
Sandwich.
Sandwich.
I know.
Sandwich. Then we'll go to the Quincy's next, right? We're gonna go Candace. We're gonna go Lil Toto, Minnie, Bambi, Giselle. We're at 14. Mayuri.
Nanana's there.
Nanana. And then so we're at 16 people in here.
Currently.
Then we have 4 more people. I don't even said Yoruichi. Yoruichi's 17.
Yeah.
Then we have 4 more people that show up. Oh, Nanau's there.
Nanao is there.
18.
So that's 18. And the Fullbringers.
And the Fullbringers, you're right, Jose. So we have
3.
Genjo,
So we're at
Giriko.
21.
So we're at 21 with Tsukishima. And then the 4 puts us at 25, which is Shunsui, Kenpachi. Oh, it's more than 4. Kensei.
26?
Ikaku.
Oh, no,
Yumichika.
27.
26 or 27?
26.
One of the two.
There's 26 fucking characters in this goddamn room.
Yeah, 26. Yeah, you're right. 26.
So crazy. Like absolutely crazy. I just like to imagine they all sat in a circle on the floor. They just like a giant
like kindergartners.
Mm-hmm.
And like Grimmjow's the rebel, so he's sitting cross-legged. He's not sitting traditional style.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mayuri and Nanana are just in the corner. And I think little Toto, what started off the beef too, is like Nanana is sitting in the corner and he's like using his heel to identify everybody. He's just like inspecting them.
And she's like, "The fuck you looking at, you weird lecher?"
Yeah.
So good. And it continues. So if you guys have anything else to touch on, there's a whole, I think the next chapter is all conversation.
Nah, that's it for me.
Let's see. I think Yumi Chika enters the room and immediately looks at Charlotte and
Charlotte,
and
yeah.
Giselle and just goes, eh.
It's just the interactions that they had that make me so happy.
I was like, this is one of the chapters I can't wait for the other two to get to.
I was just giggling half the time.
When Kenpachi walks in, Ginjo notices Girko acting weird.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You okay?"
He was kind of startled.
Because you remember, Ginjo doesn't know how he died. So Ginjo's just like, why are you being a weirdo? Why are you being a weirdo? And he's like, oh,
right
nothing.
I'm good,
Well, the
bro. It's not
PTSD hit 4 people at the same time. And I don't know if it comes in the next chapter. Oh, it does come up in the next chapter.
Wait, does Grimmjow interact with?
Yes, with Kenpachi.
Well,
but that's the next chapter.
No, previously. I don't remember.
No,
Nope.
they'll talk about it. We'll get to it.
But like, imagine you're buffed up on crazy Ichigo fueled Fullbring power. You get one shot, killed. You're in Soul Society. You think it's over, and then he walks through the door.
The devil is here.
Yeah, like fuck.
He's like, man.
I feel like you almost have like, they found me. They found me.
That.
That'd have been full on freaking my shit the whole time.
Just shit yourself. Be like, yep, sorry, I gotta excuse myself.
I gotta go. I'm not even going to the toilet. I'm just gonna walk home like this. Next chapter where the good shit happens.
Chapter 17. Kiraku begins to talk to Yoruichi and clarifies that his intention is to prevent Tokinada from gaining any prominence in the Soul Society, period. He actually wants to have this done before an article can be released, period, about his ascension to the throne. And he acknowledges that there is a complexity of directly challenging the 4 great noble clans, but he's like, listen, we need to act covertly and take out fucking Tokinada. And Lototo is like, okay, I get it, Soul Reapers, you're doing your thing, but you guys want to use this pawns, like straight up. And Kiraku's like, nope, that's not the case. Our ceasefire is still genuine, and he values the bond that they formed when they first invaded the Soul Palace. And Kiraku then goes on to guarantee the safety of Genjo and the other Fullbringers. So like, well, what about us? Like, Mayuri's trying to fucking murder us. And he's like, I guarantee you guys for now, we're good. And he says that includes all other captains, and looks at Mayuri. And Mayuri's like, firstly, you don't have the authority to stop the research and development department from doing shit. And Tsukishima is like ready to fight at this point, like has his bookmark good to go because he knows Mayuri's up to some shit. And this is where we find out Mayuri is not even in the room. This is a flesh doll that he just created. It's remotely controlled, and it was made as a countermeasure to Tokinada. So because he's like goading him, like, go ahead, answer yourself into me, go ahead. And Tokinada's like, I'm not. Oh, sorry, Tsukishima. And Tsukishima's like, well, I'm not going to answer myself into something that's just the front and back of a book. I'm not going to do it. And that's when Mayuri's like, interesting. So you can
smart guy.
He says that Tsukishima can tell the length of like somebody's history before he answered it.
So
Mayuri's like, that interests me even more that you can tell that.
He's gonna dissect them.
This is where we get one of the best lines that Pythes has previously told us, and I fucking love it. Where in rebuttal to Mayuri saying like, "Yo, Shunsui, you don't have the authority for that shit." He's like, "Well, I'm gonna have the authority, but if this fails and it gets out, who do you think they're gonna put as the next head captain? It's gonna be Byakuya, and Byakuya is gonna crack down way fucking harder. You think he's gonna allow all of your experiments?" And then Mayuri's like, "Okay, okay."
I just picture Byakuya walking around and be like, your coat.
Yeah,
it's not nice enough. Go spend some allowance on this.
In response, Mayuri's like, "You sneaky fox!" It's like, you fucker.
I just picture him with his like little angry face that he always does, just like,
he's like, "Yeah, you caught me on that one, you fucking bitch." Because it is true. It's very true. Byakuya would crack down fucking hard. He's the no bullshit.
He would walk in there and be like, get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that. I know there's a secret room somewhere in here.
No, he would walk in, he'd look around, just say Bankai Senpon Sakura Kage.
And just blow up the whole thing.
Destroy the whole R&D department.
He would ask them to rebuild it, and then he would ask Mayuri, be like, so, Ambassador Seaweed, can you make it happen?
Yeah. And he'd be asking for like, okay, research and development, I want you guys to develop new teas, new drinking formulas. Like, so that's gonna be perfect.
Imagine they replace research and development, and Mayuri is now the head of the confectionery department. And you just see him.
Don't forget, we gotta add Chappie too.
You just see him at a table looking miserable, like, the strawberry balance in this cookie is not enough.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
You're
And so this is
so-
where we get the part after this, Jose, where Grimmjow
Okay.
and Kenpachi are interacting
Yeah,
with
see,
each other.
I was about to hop into
And
that.
neither of them are down for this plan. They're like, no, fuck this. Grimmjow's like, I don't want to be part of it. I'd rather just fuck up everybody. And Kenpachi's like, me too. Me fucking too. He's like, you down? And this, of course, begins to rile up when Kukaku finally tells them, hey, settle down. Settle the fuck down again. And Kiraku here promises not to interfere with Grimmjow's future 1v1 with Ichigo. He's like, hey, if you help out, we're not going to interfere. He's like, honestly, I don't think Ichigo would want us to interfere. And then he emphasizes that, to be completely honest with everybody in the room, this is coming from not the head captain, but from personal Shunsui Kiraku's desire to take down Tokinada.
Yeah.
So this is like a off the books,
Let's
not head
fucking
captain order.
go.
And this is when Halipol inquires about, oh, like you are all of a sudden good on, recognizing 1v1s. Does that stance hold true on Stark? And I'm like, that's fucking
She
right.
fucking brought it
That
up. I was
shady
wondering when
little
you were gonna bring
bitch.
it up.
That shady little bitch. And he's like, yes, it does. I promise. But Kiraku is kind of like reflecting in his mind of all the things that he said, which I fucking would make fun of him for. Oh, in a war, both sides are evil. You can't, there's no rules in war. And he's like thinking back on these things. He's like,
God damn it.
Halipol's asking him, well, what about then? What about Stark? How do you feel about that? And he's like, no, like, I fucking promise this is the same case for Stark as well. And it does end with Kiraku basically being, I cannot promise if another war breaks out, but as of right now, yes. And Kiraku states, in terms of Ichigo, he's pretty sure Ichigo wants something other than war anyways.
Mm-hmm.
We now go to the underground facility of the Urahara shop, where we see Hisagi and Tessai, where they have a whole bunch of people lined up with abnormal spiritual pressure, who are actually followers of the religious group, of course, Execution, that Ori Michibani is part of. And these individuals possess items that were made into circuits using reishi, similar to a device known as the Tenkai Ketchu. And these devices were previously used as a countermeasure against Aizen, which we talked about in the early chapter where we started. And he says that they were likely copied from Urahara's prototype by the Tsuneyashiro clan. So this is the 4 pillars that they put around the fake Karakura town. And they now have many versions of them they were wearing made into circuits, is what they're discovering. And we cut back to the Kakushiba residence with Mayuri now, where he confirms the presence of miniature Tenkai Ketchu devices among the evidence that was obtained from the visual department. He says these devices, which he's speculating, were attempts at mass producing, which is the old Urahara design. And Kiraku speculates that these devices might be set up to switch out Karakura Town, where strange boundaries have been established, cutting off communication. Then the group further discussed basically what this could possibly mean, and how even if it had that many people, they wouldn't be able to transport all of Karakura Town. And Genjo suggests that Yukio might be involved in creating the boundary around Karakura Town. Kiraku fears that the Tenkai Ketchu might be used to switch out something as significant as the Ryokyu. But Mayuri said there's no way that neat freak Shinjimaru would allow such a thing. So they're talking about maybe they would try to swap out the air above Karakura Town with the Royal Palace. Mm-hmm. And Mayuri's like, no. Shinjimaru would see that shit in a fucking second. There's not a chance that they installed them up there.
Oh, speaking of them, I think there was a part. This is a previous chapter now, hopping back. What was it that they were talking about? They would rather create it and do it themselves. And they were talking about both Urahara and Mayuri and Senjimaru.
I think it's the Hogyoku.
It is the Hogyoku, right?
Because they were talking about how the game plan with Urahara is for them to kidnap Urahara, which they've accomplished, and then they're going to basically destroy everything to the point where Urahara has to make them a Hogyoku.
Yeah.
And they talk about where they had potentially tried to do that before, and they need someone like Urahara. They don't have somebody, and that was part of the thing with Hikone. The Tsuneyashiro family, which I think they might touch on a little bit coming up here, they don't have someone that is as skilled as Urahara on their payroll. You know, they don't have that ability, so they need someone like that.
You can't buy Mayuri.
Exactly. And you can't obviously buy Shinjimaru because she's fucking up in the Royal Palace. So Mayuri finally is like, all right, listen, all right. Shunsui's like, hey, Mayuri, you know where they are, right? He's like, of course I fucking know where they are. And he says that he's had tracking bugs on everybody since they started fighting in the Rakan, and he has tracked Hikone to Kukaku, a dangerous area in the Garganta. And he demonstrates his abilities. Mayuri basically creates an immediate path. He uses his black orbs, creates a path immediately to the Kyogoku. And he's like, we could go right now if you guys fucking want. Like, there you go. Like, hop right in. And he says that we can even go so far as to pursue Hikone and Tokinada, and leading to a direct confrontation inside of the Kyogoku. We go back to the Urahara shop where a similar thing is happening with Hisagi and Tessai, where they're investigating abnormal spiritual pressures. And they are still investigating the Tenkaichitsu. And Tessai deduces that these miniaturized Tenkaichitsus might be part of a plan to transport a large number of people, possibly around 700,000 to a different location, potentially targeting Arrancar town. So he believes that instead of the area, they're going to take the people and take them to a certain spot. Hisagi's like, okay, well, let's use one of them. Teleport me right now to where they're trying to take them. Like, let's go. And he kind of gives a little bit of speech like, listen, me as a Soul Reaper, I'm going to continue my duties, even if it's well above my pay grade, even though I have failed at fucking everything, I'm going to go. And Tessa's like, hey, don't sacrifice yourself to do something stupid, like saving Urahara, you know? And he's like, no, I will put the mission above that. And Hiyori's like, fucking, you're so stupid. Hiyori's like, I'll go to, Ryunosuke says that he wants to go also, but Hisagi's like, hey, Ryunosuke, my boy,
you gotta chill, my guy.
You gotta protect Arrancar town, my boy. That's your job right there. Don't you worry. And then they tell Hiyori, unfortunately, they need her to stay here because they deduce that the barrier surrounding Arrancar town is actually weak to hollow powers. And so they start setting up the transportation setup, which infuses Hiyori's hollow powers into the devices, and then sync the coordinates with Hisagi. He warns Hisagi that the transportation might take anywhere from a few minutes to half an hour due to the force breakthrough. And then Hisagi, even though nervous, he's ready and wants to proceed for the sake of the Soul Society and the balance of the world. With everything set, Hisagi then is engulfed in light and transported, leaving behind the Arrancar town, going to who knows where the fuck when or how long it's going to take. And that's the end of chapter 17.
Chapter was so good.
It was a fucking great chapter.
Yeah, really good. More good character interaction. I really love all the shit that's happening in Kukaku's little hideout.
I still fucking love, like, you want destruction? I want that too. Let's go, bro.
It's so good. And it's just like a lot of people going, how do I know you're not going to shoot me in the back when I go through there? And also, like, this is clearly, like, Soul Reaper, aristocrats. Why would us as, Espada or Fullbringers, why would we help you guys? Like, why the fuck would we do that? And he's like, well, like, I created peace. Like, we have a ceasefire currently.
We're all
like,
friends right now.
Yeah, like, right now we're great,
I'll let you fight Ichigo.
Exactly. And it's just kind of him slowly going around giving guarantees to people to get them on board.
I just picture him passing out little, like, cards, be like, here, you get this one. Yours, your freebie.
And I think at one point he tells everybody, like, if you help me out, this would be a great favor you could get from me later.
I fucking love the way he says that.
And this is a chapter I've been desperate to get Sam to, where, like, look, he really, really did not want to kill Stark, but he did. And Halibel's like, yeah, so about Stark, right? And he's like,
he's like, fuck, she brought it up.
Yeah, and it's also, I don't think I mentioned that this is when Grimmjow is like, aren't you the fucking guy that took out Noitora?
Yeah.
And Kenpachi's like, why does every Espada bring that up? Like, I don't even give a shit about Noitora. Like,
he's like, I don't care about that dude, man.
Yeah.
I forget the right phrasing, but he literally just goes like, God damn, that's the only thing I'm known for. I slaughtered Yami too. Come on, guys.
The Stark part I really like because I feel like Halibel is like, listen, it's one thing if you took out, this is a bad example because I was just preaching his goodness earlier, but Baragon, okay? It's one thing, like, because Baragon would have fucked you up regardless. Like, he's like, he's going to take you out.
He's an old school king.
Stark is like, he just wanted to do his thing. He didn't want to fight. He created a friend for himself. He wanted to be left alone. Well, not left alone. He wanted to be in the area of other people. He didn't want to have this fight. And so Halibel's like, well, what about Stark? Like, that was a good fucking dude that you just murked there. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I have no comeback to that, so moving on.
You got me on that one, Chief.
Yeah. He's just like, yeah. And there wasn't even a rebuttal. He was just like, yeah, for Stark too, I promise. Like, what are you promising? Like, the honor is 1v1 in the future? Yeah. Like, the fuck does that mean?
I will say
ruined it.
The ultimate sin committed by all of these books is teasing us with Grimmjow versus Kenpachi that we never get.
Yeah, 100%.
That's too cool to be real, and I'm so mad about it.
Grimmjow would not survive. It would be an epic fight.
No, he gets his second resurrection from Bleach Boys.
That's the only way that it would work. It would work. You would have to get a second resurrection because it's just like Kenpachi, his power scaled so fucking far in 1,000-Year Blood War, where it's just it would be a murder.
He has Bankai now.
It would be a murder.
You could justify he doesn't really know how to control it yet. Like, he snaps his own wrist later. But I want it, and they won't let me have it.
Will it into existence?
I'm sure I could find that fan fiction if I looked hard enough.
Definitely. Anything else that we missed in chapter 17 that you guys want to talk about before we go on?
Nope. All the good shit is in the next couple chapters.
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for the last. Well, there's only one more chapter and then like the interlude, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's one where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to drop this lore.
Here we go. We're talking more about Aura. And it says that Aura's life was largely shaped by momentum and a lack of personal goals or attachments. She said she accepted Tokinada's invitation to utilize her Fullbringer without much thought or purpose. Initially unaware of Tokinada's intentions, she just kind of mechanically followed whatever he was doing, defeating Hollows, inadvertently strengthening her Fullbringer powers. She ended up becoming so incredibly powerful that she became so powerful and remained disinterested in anything like wealth or prestige, and she just continued following Tokinada. And Tokinada then used Zora to further his ambitions, of course, having her control a massive surge of spiritual pressure to locate a large Kyogoku within the Garganta. She stole a miniaturized version of the Tenkai Ketchu for him, of course, from a safe and mass-produced hundreds of thousands of them on Tokinada's command. Or also established a religious organization to gather believers as part of Tokinada's plan. Worth noting there that they say, I actually believe this was in the last chapter, Mayuri, I think actually it was Shunsui, says that he believes that how the Tenkai Ketchu little miniature was allowed to survive and how they got a copy of it was that Yamamoto took it and put it in a safe in Central 46 thinking it would be gone forever. But of course the Tsunyoshiro family has access to that.
I think they also mentioned that this is some shit Kisuke made, and Yamamoto goes, this is too dangerous to use.
He's like, I'm going to just keep this for safe.
Yeah, so I think they said that he made literally one, and then he took it. And he was like, nope, not going to do this, fuck that. And then, of course, Tokinada got his hands on it. And they mentioned even, I think it was back when they were fighting underground, where it's like, Tokinada sure is good at stealing other people's shit. It's like, it's just what he does.
I mean, all he does is sit there and spy on everybody every day. So he's like, that looks like something of importance.
We'll get to that in just a minute, but that's going to be number 10.
Okay. So it says that as she continued to follow Tokinada, the scope of her tasks just started escalating. So she then built a colossal castle in the sky of the Kyogoku and a palace on the ground for Tokinada. And she's just like totally does not know what she's doing here. She's just following commands, and then she eventually learns that they were meant for a king that Tokinada had yet to create. Following the Quincy Soul Reaper War, Tokinada's ambitions became clearer to Aura as he tasked Aura with creating the body of this king using a collection of corpses of both Soul Reaper and Quincy's and a unique mass of reishi as materials. He even mentions that if she needs humans or Fullbringer bodies, he could go get that for her. Like
that's
whatever she needs.
Insane.
And this is where we find out also that like Tokinada quite literally after the war sent people to go collect Zanpakutos, sent them to collect Quincy bodies. This is how he collected fucking GREMMY'S brain. He literally scoured the battlefield.
Resourceful.
Yeah, I mean, hey, somebody's got to do it. And it says that Tokinada's intentions then became evident. He planned to use Aura's powers to construct a being to serve his king, aligning with his obviously broader ambitions. And in the Kyogoku, Tokinada could sense the arrival of Kiraku, of course, and say that no matter which route anyone would take, they will not be going home. We cut back to Kakushiba's residence where Mayuri and Ganju are discussing the situation at hand. And Ganju's like, shouldn't you be in there? Like, shouldn't you be in there fighting with everybody? And Mayuri's like, well, somebody has to stay back to ensure that they have a way back. And Ganju's like, well, why don't you just send an offshoot of yourself? Like, you have this one here. Why don't you send that in there and then you can just stay here? And Mayuri says that he is very confident that they are all walking into a trap that is set by Tokinada. And he says that being in charge of the visual department, Tokinada for sure knew that they were hanging out at Kukaku's residence. So he knows that they're here. Kukaku, obviously observing the conversation, she's pretty indifferent to whatever Mayuri's saying. And Mayuri even brings up about her possibly reclaiming her aristocrat status if she went on Tokinada's side, and he's surprised that she didn't do that. And she says that she has no desire, or her only desire is to live without regrets, honoring the legacy of her family, including that of her brother Kaien and Uncle Ishin. We go to the Kyogoku now, where we see Shunsui, Shinji, and literally everybody else as they're assessing the situation as they're greeted by a vast horde of hollow-like monsters, and they say in the numbers of hundreds of thousands that were there. They are all capable of self-propagation, and they vary in spiritual pressure. Kiraku speculated that the monsters were basically using the dense reishi of this Kyogoku that they're in to multiply as many times as they need. Kenpachi needs to hear no more. Somebody says, that palace up there is probably where the boss is. He's like, all right, I'm off.
Say less, my
Like,
guys.
let's go. So he just charges right through, and it says a single swing of his sword is taking out like hundreds at a time. He's just like flailing his sword, taking out all of them. Of course, he's followed by Kukaku and Yoruichi as well.
He's just playing Dynasty Warriors at this point.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing. So Shinji sees the amount of people and the amount of monsters that are in between them, and he volunteers to act as an anchor to basically draw everybody else away. And then now is actually the one who's like, no, like it's not a good fucking idea. We can't leave Shinji by herself. But Kiraku is no, he's got it. Like,
I like how he's
Shinji's
like,
got it.
I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We should leave.
So Shinji is he is actually thinking, I gotta show my strength here, or else Hiyori's gonna make fun of me. Like I gotta do something cool here. And he's totally prepared to confront the horde by himself. And he activates his Zanpakuto. He says collapse Sakanade as everyone else spins to take off towards wherever goal they're going towards. The Fullbringers turn invisible using Kiriko's thing. They fucked off, and everybody else is now dispersing. We are with Genjo now as he calls out to Yukio. He's like, Yukio, I know you can fucking hear me. Like, what's up, my boy? And of course, he appears out of nowhere on his monitor. And Genjo says that he can recognize Yukio's presence due to him sharing his Fullbringer powers with him back in the day. And confronts him about his involvement with the religious organization execution, of course. And Yukio admits, yeah, I'm involved with execution. But he didn't say what exactly he's involved doing, because as we know, Yukio had a goal. We don't know. And then we, of course, see Aura appear. And Aura's like, Genjo, like, good to meet you. It's like the founder of execution. And Genjo clarifies that this execution is not his group.
Yeah.
He says the group that he created is a group of idiots trying to turn the world upside down. Now we cut back to Shinji, who is now facing once again, hundreds of thousands of these monsters that are now multiplying. And he uses Zanpakuto Sakanade to do his classic, reverse their senses, create illusions, basically disorienting all these monsters. And despite the adaptation, so the monsters see this happening. And they're like, okay, he's fucking with our eyes. We'll close our eyes.
Yeah,
we'll adapt and we'll close our
liked
eyes. And they start using sound for coordination. And then Shinji's like, okay. And they said that Shinji is used to this style. Obviously, the first thing you would try is closing your eyes. So it says because of that, Shinji is trained to purposely change how his Zanpakuto works always. They say sometimes he sets it so like up and down will be normal, but left and right are reverse. Sometimes he changes so that the sound that you're hearing comes from a different direction. And he says like he will constantly fuck with how it works so that you cannot adapt fast enough.
Cannot stress how bad I feel for Shinji. Because everyone clowns on his Zanpakuto because the only two people he ever fights with it are the two that can counter it.
Yep.
I think it's said that most people cannot break out or adapt to Shinji's. Like almost no one has, minus Aizen.
Bambi's power exists to counter Sakanade, and Aizen is him. That's not fair. That's so not fair for Shinji.
Yeah.
So he gets to show off.
Funny.
He gets to show off here.
Yep. And then it says that here the monsters begin to actually like dig into the ground and start mass populating themselves. And it says they're trying to turn it into a race to see if they can populate fast enough to basically out-evolve Shinji's Zanpakuto. And Shinji's like, all right, let's fucking do this thing.
It's like, I guess we're going for it.
And we see Shunsui now talking to Now. Everybody's heading towards where they need to go and left Shinji to deal with all the monsters. And Shunsui's like, I full on believe that Shinji's Bankai had a similar range type effect that he's waiting for. And everything that has happened so far is in Shinji's grasp. Like he knew this was going to happen. And he says he believes that Shinji's Bankai has an effect that makes it risky for allies to stay close, much like other captains like Mayuri or the 7th Kenpachi, which also had an effect that allowed him to basically like chomp anybody in a radius.
Yeah, he was the dude with the tentacles, right? Or
I don't know if he had tentacles, but he has a BBS unit with the little balls.
Yeah, with the balls.
Yeah, he is a chest hair sideburns man.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Fugansho,
So,
I think is his name.
I don't remember what.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah, that described with the sideburns. He has a BBS unit. You can see it, and you can see the little chompers.
That dude's Bank. They specifically said you are not allowed to use that Bankai in the Seirete. Don't fucking do that ever.
And then it says as the situation becomes increasingly dire, obviously as they're multiplying all over the place, hundreds of thousands, the monsters identify Shinji as like an evil to them. Like they have to eradicate this guy right here because it is such a fuck up to all of them that they have to take him out. But then Shinji goes to use his Bankai, Sakashima, Yokoshima, Happa, Fusagari, and that's the end of the chapter.
I do love that panel. Well, not really a panel, but
The art.
The art that we get was him just smiling, and then the hordes.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Shinji got 2 drawings right in this one chapter, both incredible, really fucking cool.
I feel like so cheated because we got to see it in the anime. Like, imagine if you two didn't know what the fuck it did.
Well, and I feel like, alternatively, I know what it did from Bleach Brave Souls.
Sure.
But in Bleach Brave Souls, obviously, this isn't a complaint, but there's like a horde of like maybe, let's say, I'll be generous, let's say 100. It did not occur to me that I wanted to say the manga, but in the novel, it's actually hundreds of thousands of them that he's using it on. Like, and the range must be fucking crazy because like Shunsui and everybody is hauling ass, and it's not till they're like way past the horde that Shunsui's like, okay, we should be good now.
I think the range is a couple miles.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it said.
Which is pretty crazy far. Think about it. That is crazy. And the fact that, we're not going to see it because we're going to go straight to the interlude, but I assume he takes out hundreds of thousands of them is crazy.
Yeah.
And imagine you're watching from the sidelines and you just see all of a sudden 100,000 people, whatever monsters, turn on each other. You'd be like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. You would need binoculars to see it. Be like, what the fuck?
It'd be such a bloodbath. Like, imagine all the pieces. It would be crazy.
I mean,
just
honestly,
ripping each other apart and shit.
If anybody's reading it and needs a visual, just go watch the scene from the anime. It does that.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yep. But it does that to 100,000
way
monsters.
better, yeah.
That's why I love it. His Shikai and Bankai are reversed. His Bankai is only good for trash, and his Shikai is only good for, like, the strong ones.
Anything you guys want to touch on that is the last official chapter of the book.
Oh yeah, Shinji just called somebody eye patch, and then Shunsui goes, there's like 3 people here with eye patch.
3 of them, yeah.
And he goes, well, no, Giriko is eye patch. Shunsui, you're identified by your hat, and Kenpachi is Kenpachi.
Yeah,
fantastic. I love that.
So good.
That one cracked me up. So the fuck that bitch Tokinada, number 10, we're at 10 people, is I just wrote, bro can't do shit without Aura's help.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite literally. Like, he found Aura and was like, okay, now do this. Now do this. Like, Aura is his one-stop shop. It's not even just as simple as like, hey, can you go steal this? Because, like, you can create smoke. No, recreate this. I want you to recreate this. I want you to create a human being. I want you to do this. Like, what the fuck?
I need you to be an alchemist.
Yeah, create this building. Like, please.
And it's not just create this building, it's create this perfect recreation. Okay, I want to look at it, so make me a palace to look at it from. Fuck that.
Fucking guy.
Let's see how many fuck that bitch Tokinadas we can get up into in the next volume. And I will say, ignoring what the anime has shown, the book ending on Shinji using his Bankai and you not getting to see what happens is the ultimate edge. They're edging us like crazy. I'd be so pissed if I didn't know.
Yeah. I'm really interested in what the point of what they're showing us with these interludes are. Are we good to continue to the interlude?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. I'm really intrigued as to what the point of this interlude is. So here we go. We are back with Tousen and Aizen and talking about how their relationship has developed over time. And it says Tousen, initially filled with lots of doubts and suspicion of that this is going to be another Tokinada-like character. Tousen initially viewed Aizen with hostility. And he was like, he's going to use me as a pawn. It's just going to be a whole fucking thing. And then as he learned more about Aizen's, quote, extraordinary powers and his intentions, Tousen's initial hostility started to diminish, and he realized that Aizen was not merely a typical soldier bird, but someone who had transcended their limitations. Tousen's doubt about being a pawn vanished when he understood that Aizen simply doesn't need pawns because he's so fucking powerful and intelligent. Tousen at one point tried to kill Aizen because he was doubting Aizen's intentions. He's like, that's going to be horrible. You can't do that. It says Aizen simply dodged. He's just like, nah, not going to happen. And he says, this is a quote here. He says, you're more frightened than anyone else, aren't you? Not of death, but of not being able to carry out your revenge and of disappearing without attaining revenge. The path I take will likely be paved with many sacrifices. However, leaving the world in the hands of the Soul Reapers like this would be immoral, like turning one's eyes away from a chain of perpetual sacrifices. Even if everyone else objects, I do not intend to change this theory. If you still condemn me regardless of that, then you might as well sharpen your blade while you're with me in order that you someday your weapon might reach me, which is what Gen does.
Yeah, it's exactly what Gen does.
So once Aizen shared this with Tousen, is of his grand ambition and how he wants to replace the Soul King and wants to reshape the world, basically informs Tousen that it is based off of this great sin, and he revealed the existence of Fullbringers to Tousen. He's like, have you heard of Fullbringers? Like, do you know about it? And that says that they have actually a connection to the Soul Society's secret sin and the involvement of the Shiro clan in hiding information about Fullbringers. And he says that as he was testing, he kept finding these, I don't know if they said they were soul rebirth, but even like people in the Rukon guy that he's using for sacrifice for the Hogyoku, of course, it all goes back to fucking that. And every once in a while, it would flare up, like when he would use these people. And that's what's kind of secretly led him to find these Fullbringers. And he says that it led to the discovery of a nail, which is what led to the discovery of the Fullbringers for him. Tousen says, understanding Aizen's vision and recognizing the corruption that is in the Soul Society, Tousen then became prepared to become a traitor for what he saw as a just cause. Aizen, acknowledging Tousen's loyalty, then said he will offer him a wish as a token of his gratitude. And Tousen initially just was like, hey, I just wish for you your new world, Aizen. Like, you my bro. I hope everything you say goes through. But then Tousen ends up surprising even Aizen, and he's like, well, I do actually have one wish. What I wish for is ... continued in volume 3.
I know. When I read that, I was like, God damn it, dude. Why can't they just ever give it to us?
Because when you get it in volume 3, it's really good.
So, do you like volume 3 more than volume 2?
I read volume 3 when it came out. I have not reread it since then, so I can't remember shit. So,
Okay, all right. Yeah, this is like one of those things where I was talking about, where they're talking about this nail and stuff too that is part of this Fullbringer, and it's a linchpin of the Soul King. That there's this nail, and they're even like, what is it? I don't know, it's a fucking nail. Like, I'm like, and then it's like, I have this one wish that I want. I'm like, what is the point of this interlude? Like, I'm so intrigued, which is exactly what they want. I'm so intrigued as like these couple of Aizen scenes we've been getting. Why? What are they showing us? Because Tousen's dead. He's dead. Aizen is in fucking jail. So how is this going to relate to what we need to know? It's got to be something to do with the Fullbringers. It's got to be something.
It relates to many things.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Pythes has told me bits of the soul, like all the Fullbringers. I don't want to really say it if it's going to be revealed later on.
We'll get there.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there in the next one.
So there is something I can reveal because they hint at it, but I don't remember if they actually explicitly state it. So they mentioned specifically a girl that they took something from, where the nail came from. That is Rangiku.
Oh,
yeah. That's.
Okay.
I didn't know if that would be appropriate. To
Interesting. I did not put that together.
So I remember way back on an old Bleach Boys episode, you guys were wondering, so what did they do to Rangiku? It seemed like they might have assaulted her or something. And I was like, no, but you gotta wait till you can't feel your own world to get to it.
Interesting. Because they talk about in this too that they took the nail and then that person still just went on living. They were just a full-on Soul Reaper still, like it was totally fine. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Did not realize that was Rangiku they were talking about. Interesting.
That was wrong. So there's an answer to a question like what, 2.5 years old?
Yeah, because I think we asked immediately what that was, and then we asked why Gin was upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it fucked up Rangiku for a little bit. And then I just wrote, wow, they are edging the fuck out of the reader because they have mentioned the original Gin so much.
Yeah, and then they give you the fucking edge for the Bankai with Shinji.
Yep.
And then the edge on what is Tousen wishing for? Like, what is it? I wonder, dude.
Sight.
And then my last note I wrote was, ending it where it did left me wanting more. If I had more time, I'd pick up book 3 and just start reading right now.
Yeah. Hey, they did a really good job.
So
imagine
good.
reading this like when the volume 2 first came out, and then you have to wait for volume 3. Like, man, that's a long time.
How long was the wait?
That's pretty close. They came out, I don't know, 6 months, maybe a year apart. It's not awful.
Hey, in other totally unrelated news, did you see that for Jump Festa, they released like an audiobook of We Do Not Always Love You, like part of it?
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's only in Japanese.
Yeah, only in Japanese, and they have Rukia
and
voice it. Rukia and Renji do voices for like a big part of We Do Not Always Love You.
Byakuya was in there for a bit, and that's it.
That's hype.
So I'm hoping that, fingers crossed,
it's a movie.
They do an official publication of the novel.
Oh.
So that would be really cool.
Good. Then when we finally do it, I don't have to read janky translations offline. I can read them.
Yeah, so I'm hoping because I feel like Can't Fear World has done pretty well.
Oh, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, 1,000 Year Blood War just re-sparked everything. People are buying Can't Fear Your Own World off the shelves. We can't even get it anywhere.
Yeah, that's for fucking sure. Piece of shit. Can't Fear World Volume 2 is back in stock, though, on Amazon.
Yeah, I know. I'm so mad about that. I was like, jeez.
Okay, but get this shit. Can't Fear World Volume 3 is not in stock
I
now.
know.
The fuck?
Because
This is crazy.
because everybody bought
See, what
Volume 2.
happened is, everyone is like, them Bleach Boys, they're onto something.
Yeah.
It was us. We're gonna claim full
Crazy.
credit. Do you two actually have Volume 3 yet?
No.
Nope.
Like, why didn't you just buy it at the same time?
Now, you're asking a good question.
Yeah,
here. You're asking a really good question.
So what happened was I was on vacation.
But you got Volume 2.
And you know what? There was a Barnes & Noble in that fucking city.
Did it?
I should have gone.
During that conversation where you were talking about the woes of getting Volume 2, I was like, well, surely they're also just going to pick up 3.
You don't know us that
you
well
give
yet.
us too much credit, Pythes.
So I will announce to the people we'll get to Volume 3 whenever the fuck these two get it.
Yeah. I'll purchase it tonight.
Listen,
Yeah.
we should still be en route. So if we stick to 2 weeks from now, we should be able to have received it and read it by then. At least the first half.
Yeah, at least the first half.
Do you want to tell the people where we're stopping for the Volume 3?
Yeah, so continuing, if anybody wants to read along with the Bleach Boys book club, we are stopping at chapter 22
There you go.
of Can't Fear
There you
Your
go.
Own World Volume 3.
Exciting times. Exciting shit.
I can't fucking believe you two didn't just buy Volume 3. Are you for real?
I mean, it should be pretty believable at this point with all things considered. I don't know what we expected from that.
I expected better of you.
Are you disappointed?
A little bit, honestly. We went through a whole
You
rigmarole.
sounded like
No.
when we told you no, you're like, oh.
Now you could be disappointed, but now, well, if I tell you, look at, I got this sweater instead. It's pretty fly though, huh?
Maybe it'll show it better on the podcast. I can barely see it.
Yeah, trust. It'll show better. Soul Reaper badge on the arm. Look at that. Fire. Oh, fucking Ichigo right on the front. He's got both of his swords on the back. Dude, fire.
From my perspective, it just kind of looks like Ichigo has a big red clown nose on.
No,
Do you see
that's
the shadow
hair.
and-
That's hair. That's
Yeah,
hair.
You
It's
see
the
the
shadow.
big dark spot? That's what I can
Yes,
see.
it's shadow. It's artistic shadow, Pythes.
And I will say, why don't you embrace the consumer, culture of America and just get Can't Fear Your Own Volume 3? Also, when you got the sweater, it was Christmas, Sam.
Well, this purchase was originally made whereas like I could wear this for Christmas, but it showed up too late.
Okay. Well, now it's for the podcast.
Yes. Now it's a New Year's sweater, so it's perfect. Oh, also, have you guys seen the potential Bleach console game that is
Yeah.
coming? So
I saw Twitter talking about
a
it.
Bleach video game title has been trademarked in Europe. So
In Europe.
yes, they are thinking it's going to be a Bleach console game. It's a different name from Bleach Soul Resurrection, which I don't know if that's the right one. But from the mobile game
From
that
the
was
mobile
coming
one.
out. It's a different name. So it's not going to be that game, which they also said they should be releasing that game on console. But be pretty fucking cool new Bleach console game. What kind of game could they even make? What
Dynasty Warriors.
Arena Fighter.
that's Jose, they've made that already, my boy. Like that, and that game still holds up good as fuck. That PS3 game.
Give me Bleach Xenoverse.
Ugh,
Is that
disgusting.
the one where you
Pisces.
just create a character?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I want to make
I mean,
Full
that's
Arrancar,
cool.
man.
Phil
So you
Urman.
want some sort of
Yes.
creative character?
I wrote about
I'd be okay
Phil,
just playing the story.
I wrote about Phil Urman in these notes, and I didn't have a chance to
Can I
get
just
to
say
it.
I personally hate video games where they have a creative character that you can use in the matches, like in the game or like in the fighting.
In Xenoverse, you
I-
can just use the other characters.
Yeah, but I feel like then you fight somebody's dumbass creative character, and it's like that's not what I want.
You can use, the normal characters.
I would be
in the story,
okay
too.
with like a kind of like a Can't Fear Your Own World kind of game where it's like it still has all your favorite characters, but you're on a different story and it's got its own missions and shit. But if it was anything like the Harry Potter game where it was like free roaming and there was like quests,
That
and
would be
stuff,
sick.
I would 100%.
That
be
would be-
all about that.
Ooh, a Harry Potter style game in the Bleach universe, which I guess is just really a Dark Souls type game, right?
Yeah.
That would be fucking sick.
Fuck yeah. Well, Harry Potter was not a difficult game, but
No, it was not.
That'd be really cool.
But you added the Dark Souls element to it, where it's like super difficult with like, venturing to the
because
like,
then that would make
Hueco
sense to
stuff.
create your own character and play in that world. That'd be fucking awesome.
You're just a random assigned to a random
like
captain
what you
squad
see
and
with Camp for
everything.
Your Own World. It's just random Hisagi just in the middle of all this stuff.
Like Sam.
That would be fucking sick.
Okay, imagine. Did any of you play the Attack on Titan games?
No, I saw them, but I never got to play them.
Attack on Titan 2, you make your own character and just randomly insert it into the story. You can like form bonds and rank up with people and get special cutscenes. Imagine.
There we go.
Sam, you make your own character. You get to max bond level with Kukaku.
You're speaking my language, Pythes. You're selling the game.
Sam's gonna kill the old Kenpachi.
Yeah.
I'll come home to my save file deleted by my girlfriend.
He's gonna wake up and he's like, she's gonna be like, so babe, who's Kukaku?
No. Yeah, no.
Computer smashed.
It's okay.
That would be sick though. I would love that. I'm on board for that, Jose.
Yeah, that's where my brain goes to it.
Okay, here's a question for you guys and everybody in the comments. What squad are you joining?
Ooh.
Shit.
So let's assume for this question, just so we weed out the losers. In the video game, you have to be part of a squad. You can't say, I want to be Espada. You can't pick that.
Can't.
Okay? You don't get to be part of the Espada. You have to pick a squad.
That's for the sequel.
Yes, correct. Kind of like the sequel to Harry Potter's going to go to the American schools.
That's
yeah.
Okay. What squad am I picking? We've kind of talked about this before, where all of the squads, I wouldn't want to be in a tryhard squad. So I wouldn't want to be with Kenpachi. I wouldn't want to be with Byakuya. Boring, snooze fest. But then who am I left with? I'm not going to be with Mayuri's squad.
I think I would end up in Toshiro's.
And like, what era of squads? Are we going relevant? Like this is 1,000-Year Blood War captains?
Yeah, let's stick with that.
Let's go post Aizen defection, but pre Aizen defeat.
But then that leaves a couple of squads that don't have a captain.
Yeah, so you just hang out with
you fill in as a captain.
That'd be kind of cool.
Okay.
You play as
that would be cool.
You play as a captain. You get to be like, all right, this is just a recreation of Fate Captain Amagai arc, but good.
I think the only correct choice would be you have to be an Ukitake squad.
Ukitake's would be cool.
You get to hang out
because then you're with Rukia.
Well, because then you could do the thing where he's not as acting captain, but you're like second seat.
I think you got to be an Ukitake squad or Shunsui. You could be a Shunsui.
I forget that. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, alternatively, it would be pretty sick. I don't know what it would be like to work under head captain Yamamoto. That'd be kind of sick. You be squad sick. 1. That'd be pretty cool.
You'd get to hang out with our boy Sasakibe.
With the boy.
I know. That'd be pretty fucking cool. Soifan, as much as I love to hate on Soifan, you get to hang out with the boy Omaida. The hero.
Omaida would be like, you want to go to the strip club or what?
Like, let's go, baby. Take me around the aristocrat district, Omaida. Let's go.
I could see like a side quest where you're like, obviously you get sent on missions to the world of the living. You come back, you talk to Sasakibe. Dude, I saw this awesome tea shop. They have Earl Grey, and he'd be like, say no more, bro. I love that. Did I tell you I'm into the West? Mm-hmm. No, you didn't.
Okay, now let's broaden this, right? Well, firstly, what squad would you pick by these?
So as much as I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to squad 4 and I'm gonna hit on my girl, I actually would love to. I kind of want to hang out with Yamamoto because he's cool.
Right? Wouldn't that be kind of sick? Because I feel like we always see Yamamoto leading everybody, but what's it like to be part of Yamamoto's squad? You know,
he's well liked.
Yeah, he was very well liked. That's why I imagine he's got to be fucking awesome to be part of.
Like, you remember those weird jokes? What are they called? Illustrated Guide to Soul Reapers. He's having he's having a tea ceremony. It's all serious, and Yachiru bombs in,
pops out of nowhere.
He gives her tea. He says, "Here you are, my dear," and then she just fucking leaves, and he's like, "All right, back to tea."
It's like when Byakuya gives her the bun and just shoves it in her mouth.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's take this question. Let's widen it a little bit. You can pick any group that you want to be part of. So just for reference, Soul Reaper, Hollow, Visored, you could be part of. Stern Ritter, you could be part of. Fullbringer, you could be part of. What are you picking? Because I already know your answer, so don't even waste your breath.
100%. I'm going straight with my boy.
I'm gonna go hang out with Stark.
All right. Yeah, I mean, how could you not, dog?
I mean,
I bet if they allowed that, if you could like choose whatever side you want to be part of, I bet the numbers would be so incredibly like skewed towards Arrancar and being part of that.
Yeah.
Especially if you were in Espada, like Aizen controlled Arrancar. People would pick that in a fucking heartbeat.
100%, dude.
And there'd be
Think how cool you'd look.
there'd be like the top three. That people hang out with Grimmjow because he's cool, Ukiora because he's cool, and Hollybell because she's hot.
Yeah.
Hottie Bell.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Or just hang out with Aizen straight in the quarters. It just like no problem.
Yeah. And then every now and then they ask you to take care of the little kid running around with his two friends, and then it's Nell.
Listen, also think about Nell's there. Also think about Yami's dog that you can hang out with. Where else are you gonna do that? Where else are you gonna do that?
I would want to give the pity vote and like hang out with Aro Nero. So what do you do all day? I eat stuff. Cool. And then,
Like, not me though, right? Not me though, right?
well,
You'd be like, you're my friend.
he's like, I don't know if I can get you past the jar, so you're good for now. I hate his jar hate. It's so stupid.
Well, fingers crossed, a Bleach console game. Fingers crossed, a good one. So that would hopefully mean double fingers crossed. Bandai Namco doesn't fucking touch it. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you guys for watching. That has been Can't Free Your World Volume 2. Let us know what you guys thought of the novel as a whole in the comments down below. Of course, what squad would you guys join if you were given full character creation in a video game? Let us know. And we will see you guys not one, but in 2 weeks for Volume 3. Part 1. All right. So make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your Bleach Boys, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks for the support. Happy 2024, everybody. Goodbye.